here, and I'm going to be sharing my screen in just a second. So you guys can go ahead and take a look at that. It's going to be following along the PowerPoint that's in the same file under the 73rd Google Drive. So if while I share my screen, you guys might want to be able to go look at that presentation as well. That'd be perfect, but I'll go ahead and share it.
Mariana, I'm going to cut you off for a second. I actually will be the one sharing screens,
Okay.
so yeah. You don't have to worry about that, but I am going to share. Did you still have your point of information?
I was going to ask if it would be possible to share the screen for people just to look at the presentation.
Yeah, so y'all, I'll be sharing the screens for all of the elections tonight for the videos, so that we can all watch together. So if y'all will bear with me, please bear with us. Technology is difficult. We're all learning. But I'm going to share screen now, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at Senator Montez's presentation. Mariana, I'm going to go ahead and mute you for the end of your presentation.
Howdy, Senate. My name is Mariana Montes, and I'm going to be running for the Diversity and Inclusion Chair for the 73rd session of the Texas A&M Student Senate. So I've made a quick PowerPoint presentation that you can go look at right now, and I'm going to be running through that. If you have any questions at the end, I'm going to be available. Sophomore, political science major and business minor from El Paso, Texas. And a fun fact about me is that I actually lived in Juarez, Mexico for the majority of my high school experience. So I got to cross the border every day to go to school, so that was fun. I'm going to start off this presentation with a quote from Kimberly Williams Crenshaw. And I chose this quote because it really is something that I feel says a lot about what I want to do as a diversity and inclusion chair. So the quote reads, "The better we understand how identities and power work together from one context to another, the less likely our movements for change are to action." So I chose this quote because as a diversity and inclusion chair, I think it's very important for us to be able to identify how it is that other people have different backgrounds and different ways of thinking, and to make sure that we're all being able to communicate effectively with each other, to make sure that we are doing everything in our power as student leaders to make positive change on campus. So this leads into my platform. My platform consists of collaboration, active listening, and outreach. And I'll be going into further detail for each of those in the following slides. But I wanted to start off by saying how diverse Texas A&M really is. So the next two slides, if you would go ahead and switch to those, break down ethnicity at Texas A&M. So if you see the ethnicity breakdown for the fall of 2019, you see that Texas A&M is an incredibly diverse institution with a lot of people from different backgrounds. So I think it's really important that we take into account that we are responsible for making sure that all of those people feel accurately represented, and that we're doing everything in our power to listen to them and to make sure that we are representing them accurately. The next slide refers to the amount of students that we have registered for disability services. And I mentioned that because that number more than likely is actually not accurate. There's a lot of students that don't actually sign up for disability services for many reasons, but I think that two main reasons that we can focus on with student leaders is insufficient knowledge and also a negative connotation around signing up for those resources. So those are those two slides give you a quick breakdown of what diversity looks like at A&M and the people that we're representing, particularly if you are going to be on the Diversity and Inclusion Committee and as a Diversity and Inclusion Chair, of course. So following slides are basically the game plan, what it is that I plan to do to make sure that we are representing our students as accurately as possible and that we're doing everything to make sure that we are of service to them. So the first part is collaboration. Now the collaboration aspect is going to mainly focus on collaboration between senators and between Senate committees. So this would be working with the Student Services Committee, working with the Constituency Affairs Committee, and working with the Mental Health Ad Hoc Committee. So working with the Student Services Committee, again, would mean making sure that we're advertising appropriately for disability services and things like that. Working with Constituency Affairs, again, we want to make sure that we're listening to our students. So we want to make sure that any opinions that are being voiced are actually being listened to, and that the Student Senate is doing something about those issues. And then for the Mental Health Ad Hoc Committee, I think this year the Diversity and Inclusion Committee would benefit a lot from working with the Mental Health Ad Hoc Committee by reaching out to faculty such as Dr. Iris Carrillo. There's a lot of mental health issues that are unique to people that are minorities on campus, and I think that's something that would be very beneficial for us to focus on as student leaders. For the following part, active listening. So active listening is something that I think is very important for anybody in a leadership role, and particularly in the Student Senate. So a quick breakdown of what this is: it's used in conflict resolution to make sure that you are fully paying attention to what the person that you were talking to is saying, and that when you respond, you remember what the other person said. So in this following session, hopefully we have a lot of lively debates, and I want to make sure that we are listening just as much as we are speaking, because both of those things are of equal value. So for that active listening portion, if any of you were here for the second session, there were big pieces of legislation that were passed, and for some of those, I noticed that some senators might not have felt comfortable voicing certain questions or certain concerns. So what I plan to do with that is opening a Google form for any questions that a senator may have, with the option for them to remain anonymous if that is what they choose to do. This would only pertain to legislation that would be considered big legislation. So this would be referring to legislation that takes more than one Senate session to pass. So if it's something that a senator might not feel comfortable talking about in the meeting, they could submit the Google form, and then when that legislation is moved on and worked on in smaller committee groups, that question will be read out. This is just to ensure proper flow of communication and make sure that everybody's opinions are being heard. Also, this would mean implementing active listening into our diversity workshops, and implementing a point system for absences to be given back to be determined with the new speaker and speaker pro tempore, of course, to be able to get absences back if a senator attends these diversity workshops or attends a community, community conversations dialogue. Now, for the final part, outreach. I think this is going to be one of the most important parts for this following session. For outreach, I've focused on an ag input inspired survey that is specifically tailored to diversity. So for those of y'all that may not have been in the second session, ag input is a survey that was sent out student-wide. Hopefully you guys might have seen it. Hopefully you might have responded to it. And I think it's very important for us to be able to have those types of surveys tailored specifically to diversity, so we understand what sorts of diversity issues we actually have on campus and what it is that we can do to solve them. Again, disability services would be reaching out to them, particularly to faculty, and to ask them what we can do as student leaders to facilitate their jobs and to make sure that all students are aware of the services that we provide, and to make sure that there is no negative connotations around them. The same would apply to the Department of Multicultural Services. So reaching out to faculty, reaching out to students, what it is that the DMS needs from us. And then I'd like to talk about my qualifications for a quick second. I'm not going to go into every single bullet point. If you have any questions, you can ask at the end of this presentation. But I just wanted to list all of these because I have been able to experience some things that have given me a lot of organizational skills and have given me a lot of experience talking to people at the administrative level. So one of these bullet points talks about a nonprofit organization that I funded. So I have a lot of experience talking to local judges and local attorneys. I mentioned that because I think it's very important for any person in a chair position to be able to communicate effectively with faculty and to be able to build relationships with those administrators to make sure that any change that is coming from the Student Senate is heard, and to make sure that we keep those relationships for the following chair, and to make sure that the committee has access to those resources as well. So I would like to close off by saying simply that I am very confident in this 73rd session. I believe in each and every one of you guys, and I know that you are going to make the correct choice, whoever it may be, to be the next diversity and inclusion chair. And I hope that whatever the results of this are, that you do choose to continue to collaborate with senators, to continue to reach out to people, and most importantly, to continue to listen to each other, to make sure that these debates are as much about speaking as they are about listening. Thanks, and Gigam.
Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at her character witnesses video. If y'all give me a moment.
Howdy, my name is Jocelyn Marufo. I currently serve as a liberal arts senator in the 72nd session, and today I'll be talking to you guys about why I think Mariana Montes is the best candidate for the diversity and inclusion chair position. I have known Mariana for a little over a year now. We became familiar with one another when we first had our very first goals class together, but we really didn't get to talking until she joined an org that is really near and dear to my heart, the Council for Minority Student Affairs. When she joined this org, she ended up joining my committee, the Campus Awareness Committee. And in this committee, we're charged with creating new and fortifying the bonds that we have with ally organizations and coming up with new ideas on community engagement. And from day one, it was apparent that Mariana's passion was unmatched. She was always willing to understand another person's perspective. She was ready to hear other people's experiences, and she was ready to come up with new ideas on how to get the community involved, how we could capitalize our member involvement to give back to the community. Mariana's always been such a sweet and caring person. Like, that has always been apparent from day one. She, even in the first semester that I met her, when we learned about what Student Senate was, she understood that this was a space that could really allow her to give back to the community that had given back to her. She applied to be a senator as a freshman, and as many people who ran their first year can attest to, that can be a very scary experience. I applied as a sophomore, and I was overwhelmed with maybe thinking that I didn't fit in, or that I was too ambitious for reaching for something so high. And Mariana just understood that this was a space where she knew that she had to capitalize on how to give back to the community and how she could work as a resource for other people. And it was so amazing to see that kind of passion in someone who had only been here for a full semester, not even a full 2 semesters. When we both got elected into Senate, the excitement on her face was never drifting. I think for the first year, I was always so scared and so nervous to be in meetings. And Mariana, just, you could see it, that she was always ready to meet new people, start talking, and just understand where it is that other people come from. I don't think I've met someone who's as caring as Mariana in these aspects for her. I think would do amazing things in the diversity and inclusion chair position. She's someone who is always ready to listen. She's someone who's always bringing new ideas to the table. And I know that in this position, she could definitely find ways to hear out minority communities and fully understand what it is that their experiences are and how they differ from the majority narrative of people who come to college and how people's lives are in college. Mariana herself has had a unique experience, and that can attest to what other people can experience. And she has a very like open heart and open mind when it comes to other people, which is something that I admire in her. So I have the utmost respect for Mariana because she's so open and nice and friendly. And as someone who is at times very socially awkward, I admire that she's able to just be the light of a party and put a smile on anyone's face that she's able to talk to. I've been honored to serve as a liberal arts senator beside her, and she's always coming up to me with the new ideas that she has for Senate and new ways that she can get the community involved, because that's always been her number one goal. And as chair, I understand that she's going to do amazing things, that the initiatives that she'll undertake will transform the committee, and it'll be a committee that's literally unmatched by any other committee on the SGA board. But I don't even know if I use those words right. But I just know that Mariana has a passion that is apparent when you first talk to her, that it's not something that she shies away from. And I know for a fact that she's going to be amazing in this chair position and take this committee to a whole new level that SGA might not be ready for, but we'll get there.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to hand it back over to Mariana and Zach at this point.
Awesome. Senator Montez, I'll give you 30 seconds or so to kind of wrap up your presentation, and then we'll go into Q&A.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So that presentation gives just a quick overview of some of the things that I'd be looking forward to doing in Senate. I wanted to focus a lot on like some concrete ideas, and hopefully whoever the next diversity committee is can definitely go ahead and contribute to those ideas. But if you guys have any questions, I'm open for questions.
Awesome. And the presenter is open for questions. Again, if you do have any questions, please utilize the raise hand tool on Zoom. With that, we'll go to our first question. Senator Lucas, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Hi, Senator Lucas, College of Education Human Development Caucus. Senator Montez, I was wondering, is there any particular reason as to why you didn't include LGBT students in your campaign for diversity? And what do you plan to do to make sure that LGBT students are adequately represented on campus?
Absolutely. I definitely think it is something important, and it's something that we have to focus on. Already I had talked to the previous Rules and Regulations chair about changing the code to amend the pronouns from he and she to they, so it's been on my mind. It's something that I do want to work on with the future committee and see what input that they might have, but it's definitely a priority of mine. I do hope to work on that in the future.
Next question, Senator Rodriguez. Senator Rodriguez, you'll be unmuted and then able to ask your question.
Senator Rodriguez, College of Engineering. Great presentation. Just a quick question. So if elected into this position, what would be the first thing you would do as far as campus outreach?
First thing I would do as far as campus outreach, I definitely think would be working on some sort of ag input like system. I know that Chair Spur did a great job with that in constituency affairs last year, and I think she got some really effective responses. So I think if we have something tailored to diversity that could be widespread, I think we could get some really good input about what people are thinking about in terms of diversity on campus.
Senator Hernandez, you'll be unmuted and then able to ask your question.
Senator Hernandez, Liberal Arts Caucus. I just wanted to know what direction you plan on taking. You plan on taking the diversity and inclusion chair if elected.
Okay, thank you for the question. I definitely think that it was a great committee this past year. I really hope to re-energize it and make it very much a team dynamic. I think that every person in the diversity committee is somebody that's passionate about that topic. And I want to make sure that we're including all of them so we can have as much outreach as possible and also be listening to students as much as possible so we understand what these concerns are on campus, and hopefully actually take concrete action this year.
Senator Jeffries, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Senator Jeffers, Engineering Caucus. If I recall correctly, you are the Liberal Arts Caucus leader for the 72nd session. Could you explain what you did in that role?
Yes, so I was the Liberal Arts Caucus leader, so that means that I went to the Constituency Affairs Committee as well as being on the Diversity Committee, so I was sort of like duly involved this past session. And as a caucus leader, that involved working a lot with Chair Spur, as how I mentioned before, on things like responding to some of the ag input questions and things like that. So that's more or less what a caucus leader role is for. And it pertains more to the constituency affairs side, but I definitely do think that I learned a lot from it, and it's something that's definitely going to help me in the future.
Thank you.
Senator Schroskler, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Montes, the very nature of social and discourse that we have on this body means encountering ideas we sometimes disagree with. What plan of action do you have to address individual a disagree position or an alternative view on a endeavor or idea that you plan to bring forward as diversity chair?
Of course. I appreciate the question. I think that I'm very much looking forward to those moments of disagreement. I think it's when the most communication is actually happening. Again, I am going to bring back the active listening aspect. I really hope that we get to focus on that in diversity workshops before we go into debates like this, so we understand how to communicate effectively, and be able to understand the points that both parties are bringing to the table while still remaining, still having our own points of view on issues. I think that's going to be a big part of it. So hopefully the active listening training will do a lot to help those debates.
With a minute left in Q&A, Senator Said, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Senator Said, Engineering Caucus. So from your experience on the Constituency Affairs Committee, do you know how many people respond to the ag input, and how will you make sure that we receive more feedback regarding diversity?
I don't have exact numbers on the amount of response that we got back, but I think the fact that this is a specifically diversity tailored ag input type of survey, and the fact that it's going to be sent to specific organizations is probably going to give us a lot more feedback. I think that it would definitely be a trial run. We haven't done this for the diversity committee before, but I think it's something that's definitely worthwhile to see. We could get good responses from that, but I think this would be the first session where we could like go ahead and look at the numbers and see how many people are responding and see how else we could advertise it to get more effective communication. Thank you for the question.
With that, that does conclude our period of question and answer, as we have ran out of time. And so we will move into a period of debate. Senator Montes, if you wouldn't mind, please leaving the Zoom and then rejoining to wait in that waiting room. All right, and now as we go into this period of debate, if you'd like to debate, we'll start with a period of against. So what you'll be able to do is type against in the chat, and then when we switch over to for, you'll be able to type for. I do want to recognize this point of information though, Senator Smith, you'll be unmuted here.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Senator Smith, Ag and Life Sciences Caucus, are we debating before we hear the second candidate?
Correct. I do stand out of order, as we do need to move into the other candidate first. That is my mistake. Thank you all so much for bearing with me as we go through this. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Senator Ahmed, and we'll move into her period of presentation before moving on to debate. Thanks for the reminder there. I appreciate it. All right. And Senator Ahmed, I believe you have been brought back in. It looks like we're waiting on you to join with audio. Right, and Senator Ahmed, we are now moving into presentation. You have been unmuted. If you'd like to briefly introduce your presentation, we'll then move on to your videos.
Howdy, Senate. So my name is Iman Ahmed, and as you already know, I'm running for Diversity and Inclusion Chair for the 73rd session. If you go into my folder, I've uploaded my video presentation and my PowerPoint. I've made them complements of each other, so you can kind of have like the PowerPoint going on the side at the same time, just so you can keep up with everything I'm talking about. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. Feel free to ask me any questions afterwards. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what the 73rd session holds. So thank you.
With that, Pro Tem Spur, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and playing Senator Ahmed's presentation.
Howdy, guys. Okay. Someone told me they couldn't hear the last presentations as much, so I'm gonna make sure my volume's all the way up for y'all. Here is, I gotta share my screen first. Haha. Like I said, please be patient with me. All right, perfect. Here is the share screen. We're gonna go ahead and watch her video.
Howdy, Senate. My name is Iman Ahmed, and I'm running to be your Diversity and Inclusion Chair for the 73rd session of Student Senate. So before I begin, I would just like to let you know that I've created a complimentary PowerPoint for you to follow along everything I'm saying in this presentation. So now a little bit more about me. I'm a sophomore public health major from Spring, Texas, and I've attached a few pictures for you to learn about the important things in my life, such as my family, my friends, my organizations such as Senate, my SLO, my home country Sudan, and of course, being an Aggie. So now on to my involvements on campus. I'm currently in the Matthew Gaines Initiative as a member of the Programs Committee, where we plan events to create student outreach and also inform people more about who Matthew Gaines is. I'm also in the Period Project in the Data Committee, where we're currently sending out surveys and emails throughout the school to assess the need for menstrual products. Alongside that, one of my favorite organizations is Excel, a DMS program for incoming African American and Black students to help them find a community at A&M and help guide them through their transition into college. Lastly, an event that I helped organize my freshman year was the Interfaith Candlelight Vigil for the Christchurch Mosque Massacre, and this event was near and dear to my heart because we really saw the Aggie community really come together. Now, one of my biggest involvement in college would have to be Senate. I've been in Senate since my freshman year as a freshman class senator in the 71st session and an on-campus senator in the 72nd. In both of those sessions, I was in the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. So now on to notable legislation. Two pieces that I would like to highlight that I've written would be the Texas A&M Commerce Shooting Resolution. This piece was written to honor and recognize the victims who passed in this tragic shooting at Texas A&M Commerce in 2019, and also the In Support of Dragonland Resolution, which we wrote to recognize that Texas A&M students are entitled to their freedom of expression without gaining discrimination. And so now, what does diversity mean? Diversity is a noun that means the inclusion of different types of people in a group or organization. But what does it mean to me? When I think of diversity, I think of it in all aspects: race, ethnicity, religion, orientation, gender, and socioeconomic status. But with that, I think it comes with a diversity of thought and belief, for we all have different backgrounds that have bred different perspectives, but all of these perspectives deserve to be heard. And with that, in creating an environment that is filled with diverse voices and people, it requires us to have respect, open-mindedness, and acceptance. Now, with that, I believe that diversity means nothing without inclusion. If we have all these diverse faces in the room, but we're not including them in the conversation, we're really losing valuable perspectives, insights, and enrichment. To foster an inclusive environment, we must be able to have open dialogue with those that hold different views so that we can build understanding. And lastly, I believe that we're not truly serving the student body if we're not including all Aggies of all groups. So now, what are my goals for the 73rd session? My first goal would be proactivity. As student representatives, we need to be proactively reaching out to our students. We can't expect them to come to us. So some of my goals to accomplish that would be to have bi-weekly or monthly meetings with student leaders of diverse organizations to see what their organization needs and how we can help with that. And with that, I want to create the diversity calendar. We had this in the 71st session, and this was handled by exec, but we want to bring that back. And in that calendar, it would have all the diverse organizational events happening on campus. That way the chair and the committee in diversity and inclusion can attend these events, and that way we can represent Senate as we network and engage with our students and serve as a resource for them to let them know what Senate can do for them and how we can change things that they want to change. With that, I want to explore also the creation of a diversity import form, whether we send it out through emails or put it on one of our websites so we can gain student perspective. And lastly, I want to hold diversity and inclusion office hours for students and senators to come speak to me about anything they want to bring up and address and find ways that we can help them. My next goal would be connections. I think it's necessary to build connections across all aspects of campus to truly address diversity needs. The first way I would like to do that is through working with the Diversity Commission, our executive counterpart. By doing this, I've already spoken to the past diversity commissioner, and we both agreed that having meetings together would be a great way to find ways that we can advance both of our goals, and maybe exploring the idea of having SGA diversity as one collective unit, and maybe even sending out newsletters. Next, I want to work with administration to see how Senate can help advance the university's diversity goals. So that would be working with the Office of the Vice President's Office for Student Affairs, such as Dr. Pugh, or working with the Office of Diversity and the Provost, such as Dr. Means Coleman, and then also working with those groups that fall under the Division of Student Affairs, such as the DMS, the LGBTQ Pride Center, the Women's Resource Center, the Veterans Resource Center, Disability Services, and CAPS. Lastly, I want to work within Senate, I want to work with the Constituency Affairs so that we can work on student outreach and engagement. I want to work on maybe creating presentations so at least specifically my committee can go and present at other organizations so that we can really get engage with them and understand what they need, and also encourage all senators to attend different campus events so that we really are making sure that we're representing the students and being involved in what they're involved in. My third goal is continuity, and it's really continuing initiatives that have begun in other diversity and inclusion committees. So while I want to continue with legislation such as our Heritage Month resolutions, I'm hoping through our different outreach methods, we can create more impactful legislation, such as bills and acts that address the true diversity needs of the students on this campus. With that, we also want to continue having diverse speakers come present the invocation at Senate, and also continuing the diversity and inclusion workshops that began in this past session. And the goal would be to have one workshop each semester for Senate, but also expanding so that we give this workshop to the other branches of SGA and the other organizations underneath it, and maybe expanding these workshops to be campus-wide. Lastly, one of the things that I want to bring back would be the diversity lunches. These were lunches that were arranged monthly by the Diversity and Inclusion Chair and the Diversity Commissioner through the support of the SBP and the speaker. And I've talked to both of them, and they are both interested in continuing this next year. And in these lunches, they would bring in a rotation of student leaders, such as representatives from VSAC, HPC, APC, just to name a few, and also bringing in people from administration, such as the provost, the president, the vice president of diversity. So bringing them all together for these lunches and monthly, and having like a rotation of them so that we can create an open dialogue between students, student leaders, and administration. And lastly, my last goals would be my committee goals. I want to create an active, involved committee with a collaborative environment. So this begins by having one-on-one meetings with my members to establish what their goals are and what they want to accomplish. From there, I want to have consistent meetings and making sure we're holding them accountable for attendance and engagement. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I want to create the diversity calendar. So with that, I want to make sure that with all the events we're putting on that calendar, I or my other committee members are going to these events and really networking with our students and seeing what they need. And also with that, as I mentioned, working with CA, I would also want, specifically with my committee, and then maybe expanding this with the rest of the Senate, having them present at organizational meetings so that more students know about Senate and what we can do for them, and staying for the entirety of that meeting so that they can come speak to us after if they have any ideas. And so now that we've discussed all my goals, I would love for y'all to watch the video created by my character witness, the lovely Erica Pauls, who is the president of the Matthew Gaines Initiative, the project manager for the Period Project, and also has been a student senator for 3 sessions. And I'd also love for y'all to look at my letters, my 4 letters of recommendation by Adil Kantar, who was the first diversity and inclusion chair, Clarissa Rodriguez, who served as the chair this past session, Lily Piper, who was the diversity commissioner, and Tate Banks, who has been a senator since the 69th session and is also one of the main authors that created the legislation that led to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Now, before I end, I would like to leave y'all with a quote by Maya Angelou. In diversity, there is beauty and there is strength. Thank you.
Perfect. And we are going to go ahead and watch her character witnesses video from Erica Pauls.
Howdy, Senate. My name is Erica Pauls, and I am here to share with you guys that there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Iman Ahmed is the best and most qualified person to serve as your next diversity chair of the Student Senate. For those of you that don't know me, I have served in the Student Senate for 3 sessions. I am currently the president of the Matthew Gaines Initiative, and I'm also the lead project manager of the Period Project. I remember when I first met Iman and she was a freshman interested in running for Senate. She had asked me a bunch of questions about how to run a campaign and what it truly means to be a senator. And just by seeing the excitement in her eyes, I knew that she was going to do great things. Throughout the years, I have continuously been impressed by Iman's enthusiasm, willingness to voice her opinions on the Senate floor, and her deep passion for public service. Iman is one of the most passionate people I know. From seeing her go on the Senate floor and truly fight for what she believes is the best interest of the student body, to seeing her serve as the youth officer for the Sudanese American Association in North Houston. Through that specific position, she was able to help organize peaceful demonstrations to highlight the injustices in Sudan. Just by this experience, it truly shows the passion and dedication Iman would have when fighting for those that are going through inequalities and injustices, even on our campus. I believe she will carry the same passion and carry the same dedication in her time as diversity chair towards representing diverse groups on the Texas A&M campus with the same passionate and motivating pursuit. When I think back to the first time I spoke to Iman, I realized that she joined Senate with a vision to represent those who have often felt silence at this university. And I could not think of a better person to serve as your diversity chair than one with the purpose to serve the student body. The role of diversity chair involves serving all students regardless of individuals' walks of life, experiences, or status. And there is no better person than to represent those individuals and there is no better person than Iman to represent those individuals and ensure that all students are heard. I have had the great opportunity to serve with Iman on various projects that include the Period Project, the Matthew Gaines Initiative, and several student Senate legislation. She has shown me that not only she has great ideas, but she has the dedication and drive to pursue the great goals that she sets her mind on. Her campaign slogan, "With Iman, Yes We Can," is only a small portion of her pursuit towards the greater goal of fostering an inclusive environment within the Aggie community. The diversity chair is one that requires someone with a great level of passion, purpose, and pursuit. And Iman has all of these qualities in tenfold. I am lucky to have had the chance to work with Iman, and I am extremely lucky to consider her a great friend. She has a clear vision to serve the student body and truly give back to this incredible university. And there is no doubt in my mind she would do this as in the role of diversity chair. So I urge all of you to cast your vote for Iman for diversity chair, because with Iman, we can work towards a more inclusive Aggie community. Thanks, and Giggle.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share. Ooh.
Awesome. And with that, Senator Ahmed, you will be unmuted, and I'm going to let you conclude your presentation for about 30 seconds here, and we'll move into a period of question and answer.
Hi, Senate. Thank you guys for watching my presentation and my character witness video. I hope if you do get the chance to look through my letters of rec. And with that, I just want to open up the floor. Feel free to ask me any questions. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting to know y'all more and answering any questions y'all may have. So thank you.
So, and the presenter is open for questions. Again, just a reminder, these period questions are 5 minutes long by default. If you do have any questions, go ahead and utilize that raise hand tool on Zoom, and we'll get those questions asked. So the first question, Senator Rodriguez, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Howdy, Senator Rodriguez, College of Engineering. Thank you so much for that awesome presentation. So just a quick question. If elected into this position, what would be the first thing that you would do in reaching for campus outreach?
So the first things I would do is definitely, I said, I do want to get started on that diversity calendar. Before doing that, I really want to make sure when I'm getting my committee members, really establishing what our goals are and what we want to accomplish. So really getting together and like working with them and seeing like once we create that calendar, making sure everyone's being held accountable and we plan. So like, let's say there's 2 or 3 events happening this week, making sure we have at least 1 or 2 senators from my committee at all of these events, just so that we are really going out of our way to like network with the students, speak to them, and like really getting to know them and what their issues are, and just representing as a whole, because as we know, Senate is not as well known on this campus, as we can see by like voting numbers and stuff like that. So really making sure that we're like, the students are starting to know what senators do, what we can do for them, and over time that can help them come to us with more, like we can find better ways to assist them. Hope that answers your question.
With that, are there any other questions for the presenter? Senator Jeffries, you'll be unmuted and then able to ask your question.
Senator Jeffries, Engineering Caucus. As diversity and inclusion chair, handle divisive disagreements between senators and outside entities?
So I do definitely, since I have been in Senate for 2 sessions, I've definitely seen it at times when arguments can get pretty heated. So what I would do as chair is making sure that to begin with, before even coming into these meetings, we need to make sure that we are coming in with an open mind. We're not being closed-minded, and we're coming in level-headed and willing to hear everyone out. And then following that, if there is a situation where it's starting to get a little heated, a little tension, making sure everybody just takes a second to breathe, take it down a notch, slow it down, making sure that they're willing to hear each other out, and if needed, maybe taking it outside of the Senate room so that they can have a direct conversation instead of going through like the debate method, and really just going outside of the meeting room and then just sitting down and like hearing each other out, active listening, so that they can get a better understanding of each person's perspective, and then reaching like a middle ground and hopefully a compromise, and then coming back into that Senate room a lot more level-headed and reaching a better understanding of each other.
With 2 minutes remaining in our period of question and answer, Senator Marufo, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Right. Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. So, Senator Amon, I really liked the mentioning of your idea in meetings with student leaders. I was wondering if you had any other ideas on organizations that aren't housed through the DMS, because the DMS is a small coalition of multicultural orgs, and there is like a larger expansion of multicultural and diverse orgs on the student campus. If you had any of those in mind, I know in your video, like you had to get through a lot in 10 minutes. So, but if you had any other.
Yeah, so I definitely want to do organizations that are not just in the underneath the DMS. So like I personally am a member of ASA, which is like the African Student Association, and we're not in a DMS like affiliated organization. So I definitely will be looking past that and making sure we're reaching out to all different like religious groups, cultural groups, ethnic groups, or like even like, for example, like other organizations that I've like kind of been in would be like the Muslim Student Association, the Arab Student Association, and both of those are also not under the DMS. So I want to make sure maybe going through STUACT and finding all of these organizations, getting in contact with them, setting up meetings with them, and that way getting a better understanding, maybe emailing them and finding out like what events they're holding, and then really just working together with them. And so definitely I will be expanding past the DMS.
With 15 seconds remaining, Senator Tillis, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question. And we'll extend the time for this technical difficulty as we unmute Senator Tillis.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Senator Tillis, Engineering Caucus, you mentioned religion in your definition of diversity. Would you mind expanding on how you plan to promote inclusion for students that prescribe to minority religions, as well as for students that don't prescribe to any particular religion?
So I myself am Muslim, so I follow the faith of Islam. So that is a very small like religion group, a minority religion group at Texas A&M. And so with that,
Senator
I
Ahmed,
definitely,
as the time has run out, we're going to go ahead and entertain a motion here. So I'm going to pause you for just a second. Senator Rodriguez, you'll be unmuted and able to make your motion.
I think she's muted.
Senator Rodriguez, College of Engineering, I motion to extend the period of question and answer by 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Seeing a second, we'll go ahead and do this by general consent. Are there any objections to extending the period of question and answer by 1 minute and 30 seconds? Seeing none, the period of debate will be extended by 30 seconds. Senator Ahmed, you do still have the floor.
So just to continue on, I myself am part of like a minority religion, so I know what that's like. So one thing we started this past session when I was in the Inclusion Committee is having different speakers come in to give the invocation. So having people from the Muslim community, from the Jewish community, and we are also reaching out to other groups. And then also in that, in those invocations, we also want to make sure that we're not excluding other people. So we are, at times we'll have ones that are not affiliated with religion at all, because there are some people who are like atheists and stuff like that. So I want to make sure that we're going to continue that in our invocations, but also when reaching out to orgs, I want to reach out with the MSA, different Christian groups, different Jewish groups, and even like atheist organizations to make sure we're making sure we're reaching out to everyone and including them in Senate.
Senator Rodriguez, be recognized for your question.
Senator Rodriguez, College of Engineering, permission to briefly preface?
Permission granted.
Thank you. So you mentioned in your speech that you were part of the Matthew Gaines Initiative. How do you feel that has helped you prepare for running for this position?
Yeah, of course. So being in the Matthew Gaines Initiative, I've definitely learned more about the school, learning about someone who has greatly contributed to this university. And through the Matthew Gaines Initiative, we've had to do a lot of outreach because there are a lot of people on this campus who don't know who he is. So one thing that the Matthew Gaines Initiative has really helped me with is really like outreaching, networking, like spreading awareness and like educating. And those are things I also want to carry out as diversity chair to make sure that we're really being proactive and reaching out to students, networking with them, like spreading awareness about what we do in Senate and really getting to know them and seeing how we can best help their needs.
And seeing as that does conclude our period of Q&A, as the clock has run out, we will now be moving on to our period of debate. Senator Ahmed, if you wouldn't mind, please leaving the Zoom call and then immediately joining to go editing room.
Thank you.
With that, we will move into a period of debate. Finally, this time I know it is the right time for debate. Thanks for bearing with me there. We're going to go ahead and start. Again, the way debate works is we have candidate 1 and candidate 2 by order of presentation. As you are debating, please refrain from using the name of the candidate that you're talking about, but instead refer to them as candidate 1 and candidate 2. So Mariana Montez would be candidate 1, and candidate 2 would be Aman Ahmed. So as you're talking, please use candidate 1 and 2 as opposed to doing anything else. And Chair Hine did put that in the Zoom chat. So if you have Zoom chat open, you'll see. But please do refrain from using actual names during the period of debate. As we go in, we'll start first with a 45-second period of debate for candidate 1. Again, in order to debate, just go ahead and raise your hand through the tool on Zoom, and then we'll recognize you for debate here. So to begin, is there any debate for candidate 1? And seeing none, that does mean that our period of debate is one-sided. And seeing as it is one-sided, that will conclude our period of debate, and we will now move into a period of voting. Voting does happen via the Google Drive. If you'll recall from our last meeting, there is a ballot if you go into elections and then you go into the diversity and inclusion folder. You'll see a ballot for voting. Go ahead and select that, fill that out, and we'll give a couple minutes for this period of voting. Right, gotcha. So we will figure that out here in just a second. Bear with us. It should be open here in just a second. Sorry about that. All right, if you go ahead and refresh your link, it should be working now, I'm being told. Does that work for everyone? Perfect. I appreciate the head nods. We have about another 30 to 40 seconds as we continue to get votes and receive those. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and cut off the ballot as we calculate votes. Please be patient with us here. Awesome, and with that, I will turn it over to Pro Tem Spurt to announce the results.
All right. It looks like we had 4 abstaining. Candidate 2 had 44 and candidate 1 had 11. With that, it looks like Iman Ahmed is going to be our new diversity and inclusion chair. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Aman. We will now unmute Chief Justice Chopra. And Chief Justice Chopra, if you wouldn't mind going and swearing in Senator Ahmed. Chair Ahmed, after here in a second.
Is my hand?
Yes, okay, perfect. All right, let's get started. Okay, so you already got the first part. I state your name.
I, Iman Ahmed,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to faithfully execute to the best of my ability the duties of the office
execute to the best of my ability the responsibilities of the office
state your office
Diversity and Inclusion Chair
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association.
for the Texas A&M University Student Senate Organization.
Student Government Association.
Student Government Association. Sorry.
No, you're fine. To uphold the honor of the same.
To uphold the honor of the same.
At all times to protect the welfare of the student body.
At all times to protect the welfare of the student body.
And to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
Can you read that one more time? It kind of came out a little like laggy.
Yes. And to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
And to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
Perfect. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Chair. Yes, thank you both for dealing with the little lag we experienced there on Zoom. With that, though, we will move on to our next selection, the election of our Academics Affairs Chair. And so with that, we'll open up to a period of nominations. Again, remember, if you do have a nomination, please raise your hand and we will get that nomination on the floor. Senator Ahmed, or Chair Ahmed, excuse me.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, Chair Ahmed, Off-Campus Caucus. I'd like to nominate Sam Jeffress for Academic Affairs Chair.
Senator Jeffress, do you accept?
I do.
Awesome. Do we have any other nominations at this time? And seeing none, that will conclude our period of nominations. Seeing as this now is an uncontested race, the period of presentation will be limited to 5 minutes, and we will discard of the character witness portion of the presentation. Senator Jeffress, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and then if you would, please tell me whether you'd like to run a video from the drive for your 5 minutes or speak here through Zoom.
I have a PowerPoint that parallels my video if you'd like to follow along. And according to the code, I can yield the remainder of my time to my character witness statement, which I'd like to do so.
Absolutely. I believe your character witness statement is prepared in a video as well. So I will hand it over to Pro Tem Spur. Pro Tem Spur, if you would please share the character witness video for Senator Jeffries.
Yeah, so go ahead and start with your presentation, Sam. But I'm going to go ahead and share the screen just a second here.
If you would run the character witness instead. He's not in the presentation. He yielded his time to this.
Hey, what's up, Senate? It's your boy, Chair Banks. So for those of y'all who don't know me, I served as the Academic Affairs Chair in the 70th and 72nd sessions, and I served as Speaker Pro Tempore for the 71st session. So a little bit about Academic Affairs. It's a committee that requires a lot of gumption. You have to be able to look around and find the biggest problems that the university has regarding anything academic affairs, so advising, classes, absence policy, attendance policy, grading, anything like that. And you have to be willing to go and tell the university, faculty, staff, administration, what they're doing wrong, and then help them fix it. It's a committee that requires a lot of energy. It's a committee that requires a lot of resolve. And it is a committee that requires you to do those cold emails, to make those connections, to have hard conversations, even when you know that a lot of powerful people could be on the other side of the argument. And these are all qualities that Sam Jeffries has convinced me very well that he has. He came into the 72nd session as a brand new senator, and I think wrote more legislation than anyone else, or a lot of big code pieces, or a lot of student services pieces. Basically, if Sam Jeffries ever saw a problem within or without student government, he fixed it. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Sam Jeffries is the closest thing I have ever met to a force of nature. And I think that he really could be the best academic affairs chair the Student Senate has ever had. One thing that comes to mind is that he actually invited me, a two-time academic affairs chair, to his academic affairs meetings that he set up without any prompting from anyone in IA. He reached out to me. He's actually working with me on a project right now to get mental health resources listed on Syllabi, because they're not listed on Syllabi right now. And he saw that and he said, why don't we get mental health resources like counseling services listed on Syllabi? So that's a really great academic affairs project that he's leading and I'm working on with him. He's just done some incredible work, both within academic affairs and within other committees. And I really think that y'all are blessed to have the opportunity to have Sam Jeffries as your academic affairs chair. He's going to do phenomenal things this year, and I honestly can't wait to see all the change he makes at this university. So he has my full endorsement, my full support, and vote for Sam Jeffries. Thank you. Thanks and giggum.
Awesome. And with that, Senator Jeffress, I will go ahead and unmute you here to conclude your presentation before we move on to Q&A.
Howdy. Could I just play the video and then I'm sure someone will motion to extend it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll go ahead and start the video. Before we do start the video, though, I do see a motion. Chair Ahmed, you'll be unmuted and able to make your motion.
Senate Chair Ahmed, Off-Campus Caucus. I was wondering if we could motion to extend the time for the speaker's presentation.
Yes, but I do believe in order to extend the period of debate, you do have, or period of presentation, you do have to put a definite time. Okay. Pro Tem Spur, would you mind seeing how long the presentation is?
It's 3 minutes and 4 seconds.
Awesome. So Chair Ahmed, would you like to make your motion?
So I motion to extend the speaker presentation time by 3 minutes.
Awesome. And seeing a few seconds, we will go ahead by general consent, move to extend the period of presentation by 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Do we see any objections? Seeing none, Pro Tem Spur, if you wouldn't mind playing that presentation.
All right, I'm gonna share screen with y'all again. Here we go.
Howdy, Senate. My name is Sam Jeffress, and I would love your support to be your Academic Affairs Committee Chair. It's a little bit about myself. I am a sophomore computer science major from Lawrence, Texas. And a fun fact about myself is I'm an identical twin brother that goes to A&M. I've worked on numerous projects in Student Senate, including numerous code changes, most notably the vacancy filling procedure, which allows us to fill Student Senate seats that are vacant without the need for an election. I've also worked on expanding mental health resources and menstrual hygiene products on campus. Furthermore, I've worked on engineering-specific projects, including expanding the first-year computer science classes, increased Zachary bicycle parking, and working with administration on changes to the ETAM process in the first-year curriculum. The most important thing student government can do is work on academic affairs, because it's the sole reason students come to A&M is to get a great education. I hope to achieve that through working with students or professors, staff, and administrators. Some of the things I want to accomplish as my time as the Academic Affairs Committee Chair is good communication between administration and students when it comes to changes to COVID-19, and making sure the student body's voice is heard when these changes are being made. The project I want to continue is expanding open access resources, because students should not have to pay exorbitant fees for textbooks and online tools that should be free. Furthermore, I hope to explore working with student councils on college-specific changes like I have done in the College of Engineering. Furthermore, I hope to protect student privacy by looking into tools professors use, such as Zoom and Piazza, because they might be sharing data with third parties. This semester, I've been working on the accountability portal, which holds TAs and professors to A&M's high standards by allowing students to know the correct path to report them. If you do not know, in the coming year, we are switching from Blackboard, otherwise known as eCampus, to Canvas, and I hope to voice the student body's concerns in this matter. Furthermore, I hope to ensure better communication between Senate, the Executive Cabinet, and the Provost by hosting monthly meetings between these three entities. Finally, the most important thing about being a chair is developing my committee members. I hope to do this by having one-on-one meetings with each of my members and help them construct plans to complete each of their policy goals. Furthermore, I hope to have this accomplished through consistent committee meetings, no matter we have legislation in committee or not. Finally, my letter's recommendation is, I hope you take the time to look through each of the letter's recommendations and watch the characters.
Awesome. And Senator Jeffress, I will unmute you and allow you to close your presentation for 30 seconds.
Thank you. I think academic affairs is one of the committees that everyone can come together and work on for the common good. And I really hope that we can get everyone's input on this and really come together to work on a singular focus of why student government is even here, because the students are here, and that's to get a great education. And I believe I can help with that. Thank you.
Awesome. And the presenter is now open for questions. If you have any questions, please, once again, utilize the raise hand tool. Senator Martin, you will be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Senator Martin, Liberal Arts Caucus. I would have a few questions earlier, but I have a problem with the raise hand thing. I have the technological wisdom of a 90-year-old man. My question to you, Senator Jeffries, is especially when bring fees for all students, what would that just do besides, let's say, textbooks? Would you maybe look at lowering fees for programs such as maybe parking tickets, other things like that? Maybe you don't have the authority over that, but is there a broader spectrum you'd like to lower in regards to fees?
I think it needs to really be on a case-by-case basis, because each of these fees individually were put there for a reason. So it's also finding different sources of funding, because each of them are there to support certain aspects of A&M. So like fees and stuff that is used to fund the transportation. So it would be an in-depth conversation on each one of those fees. But I would like to look at some of them.
The next question, Senator Tillis, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Senator Tillis, College of Engineering. Senator Jeffries, can you expand a little bit on by changes to ETAM, and then also on your involvement within the College of Engineering?
Right. So for those who don't know, ETAM stands for Entry to a Major. So after the first year of the engineering curriculum, you apply to what major you get into. So the academic affairs, I think Associate Dean, this is title, is at committees to look at this process and what changes need to be made to improve it, because In the past 2 years, we have changed our first year curriculum and seeing how that affected ETAM and see if we need to change any of those classes or anything that goes into the ETAM process. Whether that be what classes are included for each of these sections, from engineering to mathematics to science classes, all the way to like essays. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Senator Rogers, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Rogers, Off-Campus Caucus. Senator Jeffress, thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that you wanted to place mental health resources on Syllabi. If you are elected chair, what would that look like?
So right now I have language from the Counseling and Psychological Services department here at A&M, and we have formulated a paragraph I could probably pull up for you if you have enough time, that we're going to put into the basic syllabi requirements. So that is the minimum amount of material you need to have in every single syllabus per class. So that's at the provost level, and she'll prove it, and we'll get that statement into every single syllabi in every single class at A&M.
Are there any further questions for the presenter? Seeing none, that will conclude our period of question and answer. Senator Jeffress, if you wouldn't mind leaving the call and rejoining to be in the waiting room, we'll move on to a period of debate. And seeing as this race is uncontested, the period of debate is automatically one-sided, and that will conclude our period of debate, and we will move straight into a period of voting. That voting sheet will again be found on the drive if you go into elections, and then you go into the academic affairs folder. You'll see a ballot there that should be open here in a second. Perfect. I'm getting the green light. You should be able to vote if you click on that link now. We'll have about 45 seconds more of voting. And with that, we'll go ahead and be closing. We're actually going to give 2 more seconds, excuse me. All right, that will conclude voting. I will now turn it over to Pro Tem Spur after she has the results to go ahead and deliver them.
All right, howdy y'all. With 47 for and 1 against, Sam Jeffress is your new academic affairs chair. I'm gonna let him back in the room so we can say that again for him to hear and congratulate him and swear him in. Give them a second to connect to the audio.
Awesome, and congratulations, Chair Jeffress. Still in the room. Oh. All right, Sam, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, congratulations, Senator Jeffress. You are now Chair Jeffress. I will go ahead and unmute Chief Justice Chopra so she can swear you in.
Alrighty. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and post the oath in the chat so you can follow along in case the internet lags.
Perfect.
So if you're ready, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Samuel Jeffress,
Do solemnly swear to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
do solemnly swear to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
the duties of the office of State Your Office
the duties of the Office of Academic Affairs Chair
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association.
for the Texas A&M Student Government Association.
At all times to protect, wait, hold on. There's a little typo in there, but at all times to protect the welfare of the student body
At all times to protect the welfare of the student body.
and to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
To promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Chair Jeffress. Thank you, Madam Chief. I'm going to go ahead and mute you both here. And then we will now move on to our next selection, a period of legislative relations elections. To begin, we'll start with a period of nominations. Again, if you do have a nomination, please utilize the raise your hand tool. Senator Trosclair, you'll be recognized to make your nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I nominate Senator Josh Feldman for Legislative Relations Chair.
And Senator Feldman, do you accept?
I do.
And the floor is still open for nominations. Are there any other nominations at this time? Seeing none, we will now move on to a period of presentation. Senator Feldman, I will unmute you if you'd like to go ahead and let me know how you'd like to do this. Again, since the race is uncontested, we will only have 5 minutes for presentation and no added time for character witness. How would you like to do that as far as videos go?
Seeing as it's only 5 minutes, I would love to yield my 5 minutes to my character witness, John Ryan Rodriguez. If y'all could pull that up, and if y'all would like me to speak a little more, I'd be happy to. If someone would want to extend the time. If not, JR has a great 5-minute presentation. I'd love y'all to hear.
Perfect. Pro Tem Spur, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the character witness video for Senator Feldman.
We have a point of information in the chat.
Chair Teague, your point of information, sir.
Chair Teague, Finance. I was wondering, Mr. Speaker, could you tell me what the combined time total is for both the character witness and the legislative relations presentation?
Yes, so because it's an uncontested race, whereas typically we'd have 10 minutes for presentation and another 5-minute slot for character witness, both of those are then combined down to only a 5-minute slot for the combined presentation. Senator Feldman has elected to go ahead and show his character witness presentation for those 5 minutes. Again, that period of presentation can be extended in order to extend the period of presentation.
Mr. Speaker, again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So my question was really just how long are both of those videos combined? Just his videos.
Gotcha. Pro Tem Spur, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the length of the presentation videos. So it looks like Senator Feldman has answered us in the chat. So it would be a combined 15 minutes for both. And with that, we do see a motion. Chair Teague, you are recognized again for your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. Mr. Speaker, I move to extend presentation time by 10 minutes.
Seeing multiple seconds, we will move to extend the period of presentation by 10 minutes to make the total period 15 minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, that motion does pass. Pro Tem Spur, if you would begin with the presentation video followed by the character witness video.
All right, y'all, I'm about ready to share screen with you. Thank you for being patient with us. All right, here we go.
Howdy, Senate. My name's Josh Feldman. I'm a political science major from Dallas, Texas. And I'm most importantly, I'm the loudest and proudest member of the class of 2021. AAA, woo! And most importantly, I'm also asking for your vote for the Legislative Relations Chair in the 73rd session. Please follow along in the PowerPoint presentation under the Elections and My Name tab. I'm not going to cover absolutely everything in the presentation, so I'd love for you to look at that while following along with the video and ask plenty of questions. I'd love to answer them, and let's get started. So a little bit about me. I'm a first-generation American, but a second-generation Aggie. I actually grew up in Los Angeles, but I was born in Dallas. I'm a member of Sigma Alpha Mu fraternity. I'm a Russian minor. I was also an actor that appeared in movies like Disney Santa Paws 2, Insidious, and I actually graduated high school at 14. And I also studied abroad in Russia this summer. So some of my SGA and campus involvement over the past year has been, I've been a committee member in the 72nd Legislative Relations Committee. I was a committee member in the Core Values Ad Hoc Committee. I attended every single Senate session in our meeting in the 72nd. I'm also a part of Texas A&M's IFC, or Interfraternity Council. I'm currently the Vice President of Interfraternal Relations. I was a director of SGA Affairs, and I also just recently won the 2020 IFC Rising Star Award. And I'm also a member of the Chabad Jewish Student Board. So some goals I would have for this session in LR would be nonpartisanship to start. So I feel like the best way to get things done and to improve legislation and to introduce legislation is that make sure it's beneficial to all people at Texas A&M. The best saying is obviously, you're not red-minded, you're not blue-minded, you're maroon-minded. I think that's extremely important to go into this legislative session valuing. So first of all, I would actively seek student opinion to effectively represent the student body. Obviously, as student senators, we're here to represent our constituents and student body, and I feel like the best way to go about this is to work with Constituency Affairs Chair, the VP of Communications, the Diversity Chair, and the Community Relations Chair to reach out to our constituents and students to see what they actively care about, what they actively want us to advocate for on behalf of them. Because this year is a legislative session in the Texas Capitol. So it means it's really important for us to actively know what students want us to legislate for and advocate for. So I believe it's important to get their physical voices. This then segues into funding multiple trips to Austin for LR. Usually LR only takes one trip. I feel like it would be really beneficial if we can at least go twice or 3 times. And that way I can increase funding for those trips and fundraise for them, because it's really important on behalf of all students that we're there, that we can advocate and we get a lot of face time with legislators on behalf of Texas A&M and its students. I also want to create a really good working relationship with the VP of LR and the commission itself. I feel like when there's parity and there's cohesion between the two sides, we can get a lot more done and a lot more manpower and firepower to actually advocate for this legislation, because we're all on the same side. And I feel like if we're all advocating for the similar things and the same things, it's much easier. Then also I want to bring a much closer relationship with legislators, statewide and federal. And I feel like having constant talks and having legislators constantly come to A&M, like Rep. Rainey did last year, would be incredibly important. I want to have that become a much more common occurrence where legislators are coming all the time. So my legislative relations experience, I was heavily involved in the LR committee in the 72nd session. I actually worked on the federal level and the local level. So I worked for Congressman Sessions, both in his district office and his DC office in the past year and a half, for a year and a half. I learned a lot on the federal level and local level from working there. It was a great experience. Congressman Sessions is also running for District 17, so that would be a great relationship to have as well. I also have an extensive knowledge of state government, partially through my father, who's one of the city councilmen for the city of Fairview, Texas. Through him, I have connections to Ken Paxton. I met Ken. I've met multiple people, and I could use those connections to better get in front of legislators and more properly advocate for legislation on behalf of Texas A&M's student body. And then I also have a very close working relationship with both past LR chairs. I sat down with both Eric and JR before this, and I feel like we have a lot of great ideas and a lot of things we can get done together, and they gave me a lot of great advice for running for this position. And then, so the second thing so my initiatives that I would push for is I'd work with the 87th Legislative Session of Texas and continue the ideas from the 72nd Legislative Relations Committee, because I feel like it's important that these ideas don't just get dropped. Stuff like the blue light laws, campus safety, inclusion are incredibly important, and they shouldn't just, they should be advocated for in this current legislative session alongside all the other agenda items we're going to have. So I feel like stuff from the commission as well as the committee should be brought forward, as well as something I talked extensively with SVP Mendoza about is the Good Samaritan Law. That was in his platform when he ran for SVP. I've heard a lot about it from a lot of constituents over the past year, and it's something that we should actively push for. So this is a big ticket item I would push for, as well as equal funding for Texas A&M. That's something we've wanted for extremely long time, and I feel like it's really important that this is advocated for to our legislators, as well as reinstating the rivalry with TU. Even TU wants this back. I think that I've heard from Governor Abbott that he wants to mandate it to come back. So I feel like this is a great opportunity for us to push for this. And then finally, we need coronavirus relief plans. Unfortunately, I'm sure as all of you know, it's been very difficult for many people throughout the United States, the world, and especially Aggies. And things aren't going to get easier over the next year, and it's important that we advocate for relief for these students and to make sure that they have the easiest time going forward, because we value all Aggies and we want to make sure that they can continue their education and they're not struggling or looking for their next meal or having a tough time being an Aggie or staying in Texas A&M. And then also I want to advocate for more voices outside of the LR committee and outside of Senate, because I feel like the more times and the more non-senators that speak, the better our relationship with the student body is. Something I learned from last year is the more non-senators that get to speak, the more involved they feel, the more part of the process they feel. And I feel like that's the best avenue to properly advocating for the student body. And I feel like there's no better way than to get non-senators involved with the LR committee. And then something that I want to do is make sure that we have parity and cohesion with the executive cabinet and LR. That's extremely important to making sure we advocate for the right things and all advocate for the same things. And that would be awesome to do. And I like talking with SVP Mendoza, it's something we can do as a united front. I think it would be amazing to accomplish together. So if you have any other So something I want to do is I believe that LR is best fit into a three-step cycle. So the first step would be having a better communication with Senate and the executive cabinet. The more people that feel involved in the process and the more people that are involved in the process, the better things go and the more we can accomplish. And then that segues into improving our legislative focus through community feedback and group feedback. So I feel like the more people that are involved in the process and the more people that feel involved in the process, the better legislation and the more in tune we can be with the student body. And then that segues into maintaining our relationship with legislators in the Texas government. I feel like that's extremely important to do. We need to stay in their view. We need to stay in connection with them, and I feel like having them speak at Texas A&M as well as constantly talking to them, we can do a lot more, and we can have them more in tune with what the Texas A&M student body's feeling. Thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to check out my letters of recommendation from Jack Moody, Tate Banks, Pete Sessions, Clarissa Rodriguez, and Jacob Powell. I'm so blessed and thankful for their letters of recommendation, and I'm so happy that they chose to do this. And now also please feel free to watch J.R. Rodriguez's character witness video for me. Thank y'all so much. Please remember to vote for me and gig 'em.
Okay, y'all, bear with us. Technical difficulties. Let's try to reload the page. Okay, y'all, give me just a second. Ultimately, this is an MOV file, and we needed everything in MP4. Google Drive's a little weird about MOV files. So we're going to try to download it, and Zach's going to actually share his screen because he got it to download in the seconds that we were trying to get it to load. So I'm going to stop, and you're going to see a different screen share. So just bear with us, okay?
Class of 2021, aka Luke, today above everything, I have the privilege and honor of being character witness of Mr. Josh Feldman, fellow junior and a committed Aggie to the student body through the Student Senate. As a core member in the 71st session and as a chair in the 72nd session, I've had the privilege of understanding what student Senate and student government is all about. Seeing the different bodies and characters that fly through the government organization, it's really interesting to see those that kind of level above the rest. They rise to the occasion, given heart, soul, body, and mind to great causes as a body. Their A&M needs. And so when Josh asked me to be a character witness today, I couldn't be more happy to do so. As I mentioned, having the previous experience that I've had in Student Senate, I can't tell you enough what it means to be a good Aggie within that program. More so now than ever, especially with everything that's going on, whether it's domestically, internationally, between political parties in the state, the country, through the different religions across the world. We need people with good character, respectful character, great judgment, and willingness to do more than is needed, more than is desired. And in a good way. I believe Josh Feldman is that character that does just that. He's one of those to take the reins on ideas and initiatives that others might think are lesser. At the same time, he's the one to lead the cause and the change and charge with those ideas that are right, big, and bold. His ideas span from the biggest things on campus to the smallest things on campus. His attention to detail is found in those actions. The first time I met Josh Feldman was when I had the opportunity to chair the Legislative Relations Committee in the 72nd session of Student Senate. It was there that Josh was one of our committee members. And he came to me telling me this was my first semester, or first session in Senate, and I want to do something big and bold. During our entire year as members of the 72nd session, Josh did exactly that. We would meet together and discuss ideas in and outside of the Senate room, and he would tell me just how passionate about he was there on campus about different causes, whether it was with the state, whether it was through the IFC, Senate, and other bodies throughout the entire student body. Being an active member of the community, I can tell you that one of the greatest things that I love to see is when other people in our community do the same. I had the privilege of going to the scouting program. When I did Boy Scouts, there's a kind of like an honor society called Order the Arrow. And Order the Arrow, they go by 3 W's. That's the motto. It's the Matinti, the Lausching, the Hemway. It's a Native American tongue. What it means is brotherhood, cheerful service. I understand that all of us are brothers in this room. We are brothers and our sisters. The idea of being a family member, of being cheerful service to others, is always the greater cause. I believe Josh Feldman encompasses that entirely. Seeing that Josh, one of those who take charge of a lot of ideas that he has and the ideas of others, he's willing to put in his heart, mind, body, and soul. I appreciate the most about Josh Feldman, his desire to do everything and anything for those around him, including being proactive. He's the only one I've had the opportunity to in regards to running for this position tonight. He's one of those to understand the full length and detail of different challenges and responsibilities that come his way, whether it's in student senate or in his personal life or on other parts of campus. So seeing that he's the only person that came to talk to me, someone that has the experience to back up what this position needs, I can say that this man is definitely well qualified and well seasoned for what the responsibilities that this position holds are going to be demanding on him. And so hopefully you all get to see that tonight as he presents himself and as y'all vote on him. I can't tell you enough great things about Josh Feldman. He's a good person with a great heart. And I know that he'll give that heart to y'all this year. Please vote for Josh, not because he might be the only person running it something I've heard, simply because he's a good person. In the Aggie spirit, in the idea of camaraderie, the idea of the Montesquieu for Washington and Hemway, and the idea of being an Aggie or Aggies. I think one idea that we shared last session was we're not red, we're not blue in the room. I believe that Josh Feldman is the deepest color in the room. And that's all I have to say on Josh. Great character, great guy. Just find you well. Hope you all are being safe in your homes with your families. Until then, thanks. God bless.
All right, and with that, Senator Feldman, I will allot you 30 seconds here to wrap up your presentation.
Howdy, y'all. Thank you all so much for listening. I apologize about that audio video mix-up. I just want to say I'm open to any questions, anything regarding that. I'd love for y'all to look at the presentation. Anything you guys have questions on, I'd love to answer it. And thank you all so much. I'm open to questions.
Awesome. And with that, the presenter is open for questions. Again, if you do have any questions, please utilize the raise hand tool. With that, Chair Ahmed, you'll be unmuted to ask your question.
Chair Ahmed, Off-Campus Caucus. So I was just wondering if you could expand a little more on your 3-step cycle to success, because on your presentation, the slide is completely blank. So maybe if you could touch on that again and just like run that over for us.
I apologize about that. Must have not imported through. But yep, so the first step, I believe, is communication and cohesion with Senate and with the executive cabinet. So this is more of an SGA-based step. So it's we have to affirm and we have to all be on the same page from an SGA standpoint. It's not just Senate, it's with SVP, it's with exec cabinet. And the more we're on the same page, the better we are as a whole, the more united we are, and the more we can advocate on the legislative side. The second step would be improve our legislative focus, which is through community-based feedback. So that means that essentially I would want to work with diversity chair, CR chair, CA chair, and with the VP of communications, as well as anyone else, to really get the word out about legislative relations, because I want people to be involved with it. And I feel like the best way to get people feeling proud about, everything that's going on in LR and in Senate is them getting involved themselves, because that's how they're going to be more involved with HCA. That's how we're going to get the best legislation out there, is through hearing from constituent and group feedback, because that's who we're trying to do. We're elected to represent them. And I feel like the more we can improve on that, that segues into the next cycle, which are steps, really maintaining a good relationship with our legislators, through having them actually physically come to A&M, through, like Rep. Rainey did, taking questions, talking to us, because that way we can get our constituents through the door, which is better than us talking on their behalf. They can physically ask them questions and get their questions answered, so they feel like something's being done, because that's the worst possible thing we would want, is a disconnect with LR and people feeling like something isn't getting done. So that way people can feel proud of what's going on in SGA and they're able to talk to their legislators. And I feel like this whole cycle keeps repeating over and over. And if every single piece in the cog is working correctly, it's a much better cycle and things get done way better. And it's just a better experience for everyone.
With that, our next question comes from Senator Agunya. Senator Agunya, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Agunya, Off-Campus Caucus. Can you elaborate a little bit more about the sense of cohesion you'd like to establish with the legislative relations counterpart if you're elected chair? Like, what do you see that relationship looking like specifically?
For sure. So something I would really want to do is I want to have a lot more joint meetings between Legislative Relations Committee and Senate and with the Legislative Relations Commission. So something I actually, before when I was considered running for this position, I sat down with SVP Mendoza. As he was also a former LR chair, I wanted to get his advice and things that he thought about it. I think something really great is when we're all working together, especially between the two commissions, that's double the firepower, that's double the people, that's double the opinions, that's double the input. And also, the more we're working on the same things, we don't have problems where everyone's advocating for different things and everyone has different things on their agenda. The more cohesion we have there through me meeting with the legislative, the VP of LR and SVP Mendoza, as well as having the committees and commissions meet together, that way things are just a lot more streamlined and everyone knows what's going on. It's a lot more transparent, and that's something I feel like that would be really great for both parts, both exec and Senate.
Thank you.
With a minute and 30 seconds remaining, Senator Garcia, you'll be unmuted to ask your question.
Senator Garcia, Health Science Center Caucus. So you did mention about like not being or being bipartisan in this role, but a lot of relating to academic affairs, legislative relations is partisan. So I was wondering how you plan on taking ideas that you may not like agree with. Sorry.
Of course. Yeah, so something that when I talked to both Chair Rodriguez and SVP Mendoza is the legislative relations chair is there not to be controlling the room in LR. It's there to be a mediator. It's inevitable that there will be some political things happening and people may have different beliefs, and that's fine. That's great. We need all beliefs and all different ideas. But the LR chair himself should not be political in any way. He should be mediating between things. He should be making sure the meetings are running best and advocating for Texas A&M. And at the end of the day, if Texas A&M and the students speak out on something they really support, it should be the legislative relations chair's job to really push that forward and to advocate for it. And he shouldn't be running the room. It should be an open dialogue. And that's, I think, what's really important. And that's what I mean by bipartisanship, is the LR chair shouldn't really have to insert himself into this legislation. He should be making sure it's running.
Senator Feldman, as that is time, if you'd please finish your thought.
Yep. So just making sure it runs smoothly and making sure that you need to be bipartisan, as like everyone always keeps saying, you know, you're not red-minded, you're not blue-minded, you're maroon-minded. And that's something that the LR chair really needs to push forward throughout their time as LR chair.
And I do see a motion. Senator Marufo, you'll be unmuted for your motion.
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. I move to extend the period. Can I do that even though you just kind of announced? Okay, extend the period of question and answer by 3 minutes.
Seeing multiple seconds, we will move to extend the period of question and answer by 3 minutes by general consent. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the period of question and answer has been extended by 3 minutes. We will proceed with the next question. Senator Feldman, do you have anything to add on the last one, or are you ready for the next question?
I'm ready for the next one.
All right. Senator Martin, you'll be recognized and able to ask your question.
Senator Martin, Liberal Arts Caucus. Question. So obviously you talked about bringing back the A&M Texas game. It's obviously something that's really rooted in the history of this university. When you're looking at doing this, how are you wanting to bring, you mentioned talking with like the governor as well as the legislators in Austin. How would you do that with TU and then let's say President Young at Texas A&M to try and get a common ground? Because we've been having this conversation since the last game in 2011. How do you think that you're the person to get this thing passed through?
Yep. So I think there's actually a lot of push for this. I mean, I think there's a quote from Abbott, I believe maybe even a year ago, saying that he's considering mandating it come back because it's very good for both universities. It makes the state of Texas a lot of money as well. Obviously, he is a TU fan, but also I actually have someone I interned with up in DC last year is actually now the SVP of TU. And so also having good relationship with both Eric, with Onaga, and just having that push forward with a lot of legislators feeling like this is something that should be done. I think the more we advocate for it, and the more the sides keep pushing for it, and the more we keep telling legislators to support it, the better it'll be. Because obviously in the Texas legislature, it's a numbers game. So the more people that support it, the better it is. And so I feel like that's probably the best way to push it forward.
And with a minute remaining, Senator Said, you'll be recognized to ask your question.
Senator Said, Engineering Caucus. How would you say your experience is going to help you with the Legislative Relations Committee specifically?
Oh, for sure. No, I think it'll help me tremendously. I think especially just being an LR, that helps a lot because I know how it works. And then especially just my legislative experience working with Congressman Sessions, with my dad being a city councilman, and, you know, really knowing how the legislative process works. I feel like it's extremely important to have, because that's how we're going to get things done, is through connections, through knowing who to talk to, and knowing how bills and resolutions are passed, because we need that experience, especially as an LR chair. With this being a legislative session, time is of the essence, and knowing how to get it done and having the experience to go up to Austin and talk to these legislators and knowing how to communicate it, I think is paramount. And I feel like I have a lot of experience there.
Senator Feldman, if you would please finish the current sentence, that is time.
Perfect. Yeah, I think I have a lot of past experience, and I feel like it's going to help bring to the table a lot more, as well as being open to others to sit at that table as well and advocate for things and communicate with those legislators, because it's obviously not just a one-person job.
Thank you, Senator Feldman. And with that, unfortunately, we are out of time. And so we will have to move on here. Senator Feldman, we're going to be moving into a period of debate. So if you wouldn't mind going ahead and hopping off and then hopping back in. Before we do that, though, we do have a motion. Senator Chunga, you'll be recognized here and unmuted.
Senator Chunga, off-campus classes, is there any way that we can extend question time for just 1 more minute?
Yes, so you would say, I move to extend the period of question and answer by 1 minute, and then we'll have seconds and go ahead and look to do that. I will say, if we are to get through everything we have on the agenda tonight, I would recommend us moving forward as quickly as possible here. But we can obviously extend the period of question and answer at any point if it's the consent of the body. Is there a motion there?
Yeah, a motion to extend the period of questions to 1 minute.
Seeing a second, we will move by general consent to extend the period of question and answer by a minute. Are there any objections? Seeing an objection, we will move to vote. Seeing multiple objections, we'll vote here. And I believe this does have to receive majority in order to pass as a motion. And so we'll go ahead and vote. We do have a general ballot in the drive that should be ready here in just a second. Per Tim Spur. All right, so that form for voting here is in the Zoom group chat. So if you click that link, we'd go ahead and see whether this motion does indeed fail or pass. I'll have about 20 seconds more to get those votes in. Okay, those votes are still coming in here. We'll close it in just a second. And seeing as we do not have a majority, that motion has been overturned, and we will not be extending the period of question and answer by a minute. And so that will conclude our period of question and answer, and we'll move on to that period of debate. Senator Feldman, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and hopping off the call and rejoining in for the waiver.
Of course. Thank y'all.
And then with that, we'll now move into a period of debate, but seeing as this is an uncontested race and the debate is automatically one-sided, that will conclude our period of debate, and we will move into a period of voting. Our ballot is up again. That can be found underneath the elections folder within the legislative relations folder, and then it should be a ballot there for you to see. We'll have about another minute and a half or so. All right, about 15 seconds more. Just finish up those votes. If you do need more time, please say so in the chat. And with that, I will hand it over to Pro Tem Spur to read the results of the election, as well as to let Senator Feldman back into the meeting.
All right, with a vote of 43 for and 9 against, Josh Feldman is your new Legislative Relations Chair. Let's congratulate him and let him get sworn in.
Congratulations, Senator Feldman. Madam Chief Justice Chopra, we'll go ahead and unmute you here.
Thank you. Alrighty, so the oath is posted in the chat if you scroll up if you'd like to follow along. But I'm ready when you are.
I'm not seeing it there, but I'll do it by memory. It's fine.
Okay, I can repost it again if you'd like.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. There you go.
Perfect.
Alrighty, raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Joshua Eric Feldman,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
the duties of the office of state your office
the duties of the office of Legislative Relations Chair
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association,
for the Texas A&M Student Government Association,
to uphold the honor of the same
to uphold the honor of the same
at all times, to protect the welfare of the student body,
at all times, to protect the welfare of the student body,
and to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
and to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Chair Feldman. I'm going to go ahead and unmute both of y'all as we move on to the next part of our agenda. With that, though, I would like to recognize Chair Hine with a motion.
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. I move to deviate from the agenda and move into a period of electing caucus leaders.
Seeing a second, we will move by general consent to deviate from our agenda and elect caucus leaders. Do I see any objections? Seeing none, we will move into that. The way this process is going to work, guys, is that we're going to break the Zoom call into groups. There is a group setting, I believe, down there that Chair Hine is going to be managing. Pro Tem Spur is going to be managing, and so they're going to be getting everyone into the right caucuses. So just bear with us as we do this. We're going to do about 10 minutes or so. We'll kind of read the group's point of information from Senator Jeffress. Senator Jeffress will be unmuted here. Chair Jeffress, excuse me.
Would you mind reminding the Senate body of the role of caucus leader and what committee they serve in?
Absolutely. So a caucus leader is an elected position here. It's elected through caucuses. And the way that they serve is by serving on the Constituency Affairs Committee. So the Constituency Affairs Committee is made up entirely of caucus leaders as well as the chair. And so they work directly with constituents. The role is to coordinate with your caucus, your fellow senators as the leader, and to coordinate your caucus with constituent opinion and to deliver that onto the Constituency Affairs Chair and IA. So that's kind of your position there as a caucus leader. You're like a liaison between your caucus and the Internal Affairs Committee, specifically the Constituency Affairs Chair, if that makes sense there. But with that, again, we are breaking out into groups here. So we're going to break up here. And then after we get that, we'll have about 10 minutes. So you'll work out amongst yourselves you'll work out amongst yourselves who's going to be the caucus leader. You'll vote. It does need to be unanimous amongst the caucus. I do recognize that there are some bigger caucuses that may need a little bit more time or not. So we'll be managing that from here behind the scenes. But bear with us here as we go ahead and split everyone into those breakout groups.
Y'all, we're actually going to have 7 minutes for this. I'm going to go ahead and try to break these rooms out. It may break you all up randomly. I need to break y'all up by caucus, so just bear with us for a second, okay? Because we can't pre-make them.
Point of information from Senator Dang. Senator Ding.
Senator Ding, off-campus caucus. So if a senator is going to be a caucus leader, can they still be in another committee? Or do they they can only be in the Constituency Affair?
Correct. And the caucus leaders also cannot be fulfilling a chair position. So anyone who's a chair cannot run for caucus leader.
Thank you.
Victor Ferro, Engineering Caucus. I have a question. So now that any chair can serve as caucus leaders, how we're gonna do? Because we still have some chair positions to fill in. So does that limit, like if we are candidates for any chair position, that limits our ability to run for the caucus leaders, or how? Mr. Speaker, you're mute.
Yes. If you were to run for caucus leader and then also run for a chair position and win that chair position, you'd have to vacate your position as caucus leader, and the caucus would have to select a new caucus leader. So my recommendation, if you are seeking a chair position, would to be not to run for caucus leader here. Again, I'm not going to discourage anyone from stepping into a position of leadership, but I will say, if you are to run for a chair position and then unfortunately not get it, but also have missed the opportunity to run for a caucus leader, there are many other opportunities to step up into leadership roles within the Senate. And so, unfortunately, due to time constraints and the agenda that we'll have for our next meeting, we do want to go ahead and get caucus leaders selected this meeting as opposed to the next.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Right. It looks like a lot of people are already in their breakout rooms. If you are not in a breakout room yet, rest easy. You should be getting a invite to that breakout room here shortly. Um, and I'll do a final call for anyone who's left in here in a second. Noyola texts me, do I really have to be in a breakout room of one person?
They've got about 3 more minutes, you guys. Thank you for being patient with us.
All right, guys, for those waiting back here in the main room, we just gave our 30-second warning. So everyone is wrapping it back up. And then we will bring everyone back into here to go into the next part of our agenda. All right, welcome back, everyone. I believe every caucus has selected a caucus leader. Pro Tem Spur, can you confirm that? Yes, all right, we do have results from all of the caucuses. So with that, Chief Justice Chopra, I will have you swear in caucus leaders here, if you would not mind.
All right. Thank you. The oath is in the chat. I don't know if everyone can.
Chief Justice Chopra, 1 second here. Gotcha. So we're actually going to solve this real quickly. Give me 1 second.
Chair Hine, what is your discretion on this?
So if the two that were interested want to private message Hannah and go out into a break room and I guess see what they're okay with. I had someone from the off-campus caucus text me and say that there wasn't a lot of discussion between all of the senators. I'll look in the code to see if there's any guidance from there, but that's my input on that. If you want to put me in a breakout room with them and y'all can get the names of all of the other ones, I can try to facilitate that.
Perfect. So what we'll do then, go ahead and go into that breakout room, have those three go into the breakout room. If y'all sit tight here for just a second. So the breakout rooms did close after we issued the warnings here. So that's why senators were kicked back into here from meetings. I do apologize for that. Unfortunately, time constraints did force us to kind of get a move on here.
So in an effort to move things along, if you were the last two in the off-campus caucus, privately message me via Zoom. We're going to put you in a breakout room and move on with top staff confirmations so that we can continue on because we're running out of time. And we will get that resolved, and then we will swear you all in after top staff confirmations.
So to reiterate, please, if you're one of those two, go ahead and message Pro Tem Spur. In the meantime, we will move into the next period of our agenda, and we'll come back to swear in caucus leaders after we complete the rest of our agenda here. With that, that does bring us into a period of top staff confirmations, beginning with Oriana Crute. For Executive Vice President. The way this is going to work before we jump into the presentations, Student Body President Mendoza will kind of briefly introduce these candidates, and then we'll hear the presentations and vote on the confirmations after we go through the steps of presentation. SVP Mendoza.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Speaker McHugh. Yeah, absolutely. So I will give a brief introduction to kind of all three of our nominees today. And then before each one, I'll also have the luxury of giving a brief introduction for the individuals themselves. And so what I was looking for from top staff, but also just the rest of my cabinet, was highly motivated individuals of high character that had a passion for Texas A&M. And I'm super excited that the group of three that I have before you today for top staff is a group from all different majors, all different colleges, and all different years here at Texas A&M. Some I knew beforehand, some I had never met beforehand. But I think that jump into our first confirmation here with Oriana Crute for Executive Vice President. She is somebody that I met very early on in my term as speaker. She served this past year as the MSC president. So she has served this university at a high capacity and given just as much as I know anyone else has to Texas A&M because she loves it. And I have been nothing but impressed with her and the ability to work with her. She also worked very closely with SVP Gillette this past year through her role. So she knows the role well. She knows SGA well. And I think she represents everything I believe SGA can accomplish over this next year, working to incorporate other parts of campus. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Oriana Crute. I also want to encourage you to pull up their presentations. It is on the 73rd's Google Drive under the election tab, under the top staff confirmation folder, and then finally under the nominees folder. And you can follow along as she goes through her PowerPoint presentation. I have asked all three of them to not share a screen because I want them to be able to talk to you and you be able to see them because it is the first time some of you have met them. So without further ado, I'd love to turn the floor over to you.
Howdy, everybody. First of all, thank you all for letting me speak. Just like SVP Mendoza said, my presentation is in the drive, and so I highly encourage you guys to follow along. My short presentation will just kind of be going over my slides. So I am Oriana Crute. I am the class of 2021 AAA Whoop. A little bit about me. I am from Frisco, Texas, which is north of Dallas. I am currently a double major in biomedical science and psychology with a minor in business. And then just some fun facts about me. I was born in Montreal, Canada, and I can speak Polish. And I am also a first generation high school graduate, first generation college student, first generation Aggie. So some of my experience, like SVP Mendoza said, I had the privilege of serving this past year as the MSC president for the Memorial Student Center. And through that, I had the fantastic opportunity to be able to work with the top leaders in SGA, work with the Speaker of the Senate, work with SVP Gillette, and just really get to know more about SGA and give back to Texas A&M. I'm very passionate about Texas A&M, you know, as a first generation college student. A&M has offered me more opportunities than I could have ever dreamed. And so my goal this upcoming year is just to give back as much as I can and allow other students to see what A&M can give them as I know it has given me. And so in the MSc, before becoming president, I was the chair of MSc Fall Leadership Conference, a conference that happens during Howdy Week to connect student leaders from across campus. And then I was also in the Flow MSc a lot and on staff for that also. I also currently serve as the muster student assistant at the Association of Former Students. I'm, again, very passionate about Texas A&M and specifically muster, as that was probably the tradition that had the biggest impact in my life and what really drew me to Texas A&M. And so I have been able to serve as the student assistant this past year, and I have worked with all muster chairs and club presidents from all the A&M clubs across the globe, working with over 300 different A&M clubs, muster groups, just to help them put on this fantastic tradition. As we all know, times have changed a little bit, but still helping them get through what's happening now. And I'm also very involved in fish camp. So my personal value that I value most is development. Development is the most important thing to me. And as I've been reflecting over the previous year, I really realized that everything I want to do this upcoming year, I want to be very intentional about, and that starts with development. My own personal development, I want to grow as a leader. I want to be the best person I can be, but also helping others grow in their own leadership abilities and just helping them reach the potential that is in all of us as Aggies. My vision for this year as Executive Vice President is truly to support SVP Mendoza's initiatives and goals for the year, supporting and acting as a resource for all of Executive Cabinet, and then also fostering relations with non-SGA entities across campus. Texas A&M, as you guys all know, we are a huge campus, and I think by really bringing everyone together and making sure the entirety of the student body is heard, I know SGA could do great things. And so specifically my goals, I want to actively and intentionally work to foster inclusion and unity within SGA and across campus. And I plan on doing this through roundtables or simply reaching out to student leaders across campus, really being intentional in that open communication. Also planning on reaching out to members within SGA to see how Executive Cabinet can best be a resource to not only Senate, but the other committees as well in all parts of SGA. And then lastly, another big goal of mine as Executive Vice President is supporting SVP Mendoza in whatever he may need, making sure to hold myself accountable and also him and others of Executive Cabinet accountable, really ensuring that we're actually achieving the goals and initiatives we set for this year, and making sure as the liaison to Senate, as potential Executive Vice President, making sure I'm openly communicating with members of Senate and with SGA in general. So thanks and gig 'em. That is my presentation.
Awesome. The presenter is now open for questions. Again, if you do have any questions, go ahead and use the raise hand feature from Zoom. This period of question and answer will be 5 minutes, and it will begin at the first question, beginning with Senator Said.
Senator Said, Engineering Caucus. Ms. Coote, which of SVP Mendoza's initiatives or goals do you find the most important, and which one would you focus on the most?
Thank you. Great question. You know, as potential Executive Vice President, like I previously mentioned, my role would really be supporting him in all of his initiatives and all of his goals. I think that would really have to go with what he thinks is most important, you know, especially now. Everything has kind of changed a lot, you know, these meetings typically aren't virtually. And so with the changing dynamic across the world, it would really depend what we see as a team would be the most important goal and most important initiative moving forward.
Awesome. And Chair Jeffress, you'll be unmuted to ask your question.
Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs. Do you believe that your lack of experience in SGA hinders your ability in any way to perform your duties?
Thank you for your question. I do not believe it hinders my abilities as all. Although I haven't been in SGA before, I again have served this past year as MSc president, and through that role of a chief student leader on this campus, I have had the amazing opportunity to be able to work with leaders within SGA. I, again, am very close with the outgoing SVP Gillette, and I'm also close with SVP Mendoza. I've worked with both of them this past year in Senate, in SGA, working with them across campus, just being able to collaborate on different things. And so I feel that my experience in being able to have already had worked with SGA student leaders and my experience in SGA and just my experience as a student leader in general, you know, those simple things of managing a team, being organized, being able to be a good team leader and team worker qualifies me well for this position.
Good answer. Thank you.
Senator Garcia, you'll be unmuted to ask your question.
Senator Garcia, Health Science Center Caucus. Is there any particular initiative that you're excited to work on?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, you know, there are a few things that I'm really excited to work on. For example, one of the new things that came to campus, but one of the new buildings on campus, you know, the Student Counseling Center at CAPS, just advocating for mental health in general. That's something that's been very important for me. That's a big initiative I believe in. And again, really just making sure that all of the student body is represented and making sure that all voices are heard. Like I mentioned earlier, times have really been changing. And so working with my team to make sure that we're, you know, doing what's best for our team and working on the initiative that's most important in the times that we have now.
Thank you.
And with 2 minutes remaining in this period of Q&A, Chair Feldman, you'll be unmuted to ask your question.
Chair Feldman, Off-Campus Caucus. Thank you so much for talking with us today. Just the question I had with you, or for you, would be, what, if you could name your greatest achievement over the past year as president of the MSC, what would it be and why?
Of course. So before I answer that question, I'll give a little bit of background on the MSC. I see some familiar faces here that are involved within the Memorial Student Center, but I know some of you guys are not involved with the MSC. And so the MSC is composed, of 17 programming committees and then 5 resource teams. And so these 17 areas and 5 resource teams all work together to put on programs, serve as like business entities, so like doing budgets and stuff. You know, we've brought programs such as Foreigner this past year, a bunch of programs like that. But each one of those 17 committees has a completely unique purpose statement and a completely unique mission. If you're a member of one of those committees, it's really hard to see the big picture of, you know, you're a whole part of MSC compared to just being in that one committee. And so one of my goals going into this past year was really to help unify all of those committees and unify the officers of those committees. I wanted everyone to feel that, you know, yes, like their committee is their home, but I wanted them to feel that the MSC in general was their home also. I feel like through, you know, surveying the members of the MSC, this is something we've achieved this year. A lot of people feel comfortable being within the MSC as a whole. They'll always feel more comfortable being in their community and their community and their group of friends that they're close with. But my biggest goal, and the thing I believe was my biggest accomplishment, was making more people feel that they had a community and a safe space to go within the entire MSC and that they were welcomed and accepted there.
Thank you.
Awesome. And that is it for our Q&A. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so we won't be able to get to those next 2 questions. And with that, we will move into a period of debate. And so with that, if you wouldn't mind, Mrs. Q, go ahead and hopping off and then hopping back on to wait in that waiting room. Awesome. And then with that, we'll now begin a period of debate. The way this will work will be a little bit different than debating between 2 candidates, seeing as it is a confirmation. We'll have a period of debate against and then a period of debate for. Again, if you'd like to debate, go ahead and put in the chat this time instead of the raising hand tool to say against or for during the period that we're in. So we'll go ahead and begin with a 45-second period of against, and then we'll do a total of 5 minutes here. So with that, if you would like to debate against, please say so in the chat. And seeing no debate against, debate is one-sided, and that will conclude our period of debate. We'll move on to a period of voting. Voting the way as it did for chairs. If you go into elections and then you go into top staff confirmations, you'll be able to find the ballot for executive vice president, or I believe the name Coot is also on there. If you have any trouble finding it, just let us know. And yes, as Chair Hines says in the chat, this is voting only for senators. So if you're in this video as an auxiliary member tonight, please do not vote. The ballot, Chair Jeffress, is found under elections within the 73rd drive. If you go into elections, go to top staff confirmations. You should be able to scroll down and see the EVOP ballot. Make sure it's the EVOP ballot. No, excuse me. EVP, not EVOP, EVP. And if the ballot is saying closed, we've already received responses, so it looks like it's open, so just refresh your browser and then let us know if that doesn't work. So the ballot, if you have access to the 73rd drive, go into the 73rd drive, click the elections folder. Within the elections folder, there'll be another folder called top staff confirmations. Within that top staff confirmations, you'll be able to find the ballot. If the ballot does not show up, go ahead and refresh your page and it should show up there. We'll have about 30 seconds more. If you haven't been able to get your vote in, please do so. And just to make sure everyone's on the same page here, since this is a confirmation, it does have to be 2/3 majority vote. So 2/3 of the Senate does have to vote to confirm Ms. Coot. Right, and the ballot is off, and I will turn it over to Pro Tem Spur to announce the results.
All right, guys. It looks like with 48 votes for and 2 abstain, Ms. Coot is our new executive vice president. And we're going to let her back in the room, so give it a second to connect to the audio so she can hear us congratulate her and swear her in.
Alrighty. We're going to go ahead and proceed with the swearing in.
And just before that, just to make sure Mrs. Coot is on the same page as the rest of us here, Ms. Coot, you were confirmed to be our executive vice president over on the exec branch. Chief Justice Joker, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I went ahead and put the chat again in case the internet acts. But go ahead and raise your right hand. I,
Oriana Coot,
solemnly swear to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
do solemnly swear to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
the duties of the office of state your office
the duties of the office of Executive Vice President
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association,
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association,
to uphold the honor of the same at all times, to protect the welfare of the student body,
at all times to protect the welfare of the student body,
and to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
and to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, EVP Coot. We'll now go ahead and move both of you guys and move into the next period of top staff confirmations. The consideration of Zachary Griffin for the position of Chief of Staff of the Executive Branch. With that, I will unmute SVP Mendoza, and you'll be able to give us a brief introduction.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Speaker McHugh, and thank you all for confirming our new EVP. I know for a fact that she will do a great job at keeping me accountable and the rest of the cabinet. So next we have our Chief of Staff nominee. Like I mentioned, some of these people I knew, some I didn't, and Zach was one that I'd never met, but one that quickly impressed me. What I was looking for in the Chief of Staff, which Zach will echo, is a glue to hold my cabinet together. I'm looking to incorporate a lot more things in terms of logistics and scheduling for roundtables and things like that. And so it's going to be a very large role. And Zach was someone that fit the bill. He has impressed me already with how he has treated this. And I have no doubt that he will be extremely vital to us this next year. So I will turn the floor over to Zach. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, SVP Mendoza. Howdy, everybody. Thank you for your time. I'm very excited to be here. I would like to say, if you could please follow along my presentation, like Oriana said, that would be helpful. My name is Zach Griffin. I am class of 2020. Next year will be my 5th and final year as an undergraduate here at A&M. I'm from Haslett, Texas, a little town just northwest of Fort Worth. My major is computer engineering. I'm on the electrical track, and my minor is cybersecurity, and that's really what I am really passionate about, is cybersecurity. Fun fact about me, I'm a first-generation Aggie. If you're looking at my PowerPoint, that right picture is me and my family. They all went to Texas Tech, so I decided to come here instead, so I'm very happy about that. Just to move on a little to some of my experience across campus, I have been a member of the MSc Student Environmental National Affairs for the past 4 years. I came in as a freshman fall 2016 and joined as a general committee member, and I've served at every position. Since then, I became a director and then a vice chair, and this past year I served as chair. Our last conference was in February this year, and the theme was Forging America's Future. It was our 65th annual conference, and we hosted 125 delegates, about half of which were from outside of the A&M system from 25 different universities, and that was a really fun experience for us to be able to bring Aggies and non-Aggies together to talk about really important national affairs topics. As you can see, my 2018 year was pretty busy. I traveled to London as part of the MSc LT Jordan Internship at Living Abroad program, known as ILAP. And I worked and lived there for 6 weeks. I was there with 9 other Aggies. It was a great time. We all got to see a little bit of sliver of Europe during our time at A&M. That was really great. And later that year in August, I went to the MSc Fall Leadership Conference, which Oriana was the chair of. And that was also a great experience. I'm sure some of you heard about that. Really good to be able to meet some members of different areas across campus. I was going into my vice chair position at SCONA, so that was a great time for me. And then I traveled to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, New York in October that year, and I represented A&M at the Student Conference on U.S. Affairs, or SCUSA. And then in April 2019, I went to the Naval Academy for the Naval Academy Foreign Affairs Conference, again to represent A&M. And all three of those conferences, NAFAC, SCUSA, and SONA, kind of form a trifecta of national/foreign affairs related conferences. So that was a really good experience for me to be able to get different perspectives on how they do things. And I want to transition now into my values and my vision, specifically regarding this role of Chief of Staff. My values that I listed are determination, which I talked about that a lot in my application, so feel free to reference that, reliability and approachability. And I really want to highlight approachability here. During my time in SCONA, my time across campus, I've really come to realize myself as a very relational leader, and I really enjoy helping people achieve the best in them. And that's why I think I'm going to do good as Chief of Staff, but that's also why I chose approachability for that, because I feel like people shouldn't be scared. They should, in fact, be encouraged to come and talk to me about anything that they might need. And I think that's really going to serve us well in the executive cabinet. My vision, I want to leverage my skills for the benefit of all students. One thing that I found really special about transitioning into the SGA for the first time is SGA is really the entity that serves all students on campus. And I find that really fascinating and really special. And I'm very excited to be a part of that finally. And I really want to use my skills in the role of Chief of Staff for the benefit of all those students across campus. And I want to plan and execute the vision of the student body president. And my goals for getting there, I want to build and maintain a cohesive, efficient, and goal-oriented cabinet. And this goes back to what I talked about with approachability. and the fact that I'm a very relational leader. I see the role, like Student Body President Eric Mendoza said, I see the role as being a glue holding together the entire executive cabinet and really forming, a singular unit that can go out and tackle some issues across campus. And I want to be that person that is that team leader. Like I said, I really enjoy, the thing I enjoy the most about leadership is helping people achieve the best of their abilities and being able to get them in a place where they can do good things. And that's exactly what I want to do. Also, internal development. That's been a big thing in my time in the MSC. And I found it personally helpful. I don't think that I would be here in front of you today if it hadn't been for some of the internal development things that I had to go through in the MSC as part of SCUNA. So, working in the executive cabinet to get internal development going within the executive cabinet, both for the benefit of SGA, but also for the benefit of those personally who were taken care of in SGA. I think that's really important. It's one of my personal priorities. Also, campus outreach. I come from a programming committee, obviously, so my mind kind of defaults there sometimes. But like SVP Mendoza mentioned, getting out there and getting in roundtables with groups across campus. Like I said, I come from outside of SGA, so I have a really good perspective on being, I guess, an outsider from SGA. And I want to be able to bridge the gap and help bridge the gap between students and SGA a little bit more. Also, I've thought a little bit, I haven't given it too much thought, but programming possibly. I really enjoy campus programming. I think it's a really good way also to get some campus outreach. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. I look forward to questions. Mr. Speaker, you're muted.
Appreciate that. So the presenter is open for questions. Again, if you do have any questions, please utilize the raise hand tool from Zoom, and we'll look for those questions now. Chair Jeffress, you'll be unmuted to ask your question.
Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the previous candidate. Do you believe that your lack of experience hinders in SJ hinders your ability to perform your duties in this position?
I do not, because even though I haven't been in SGA, I have been in a position of leading students and hosting programs that are directly designed to benefit the student body, which is exactly what SCUN is for. That's in our purpose statement. And I think that my experience coming from outside of SGA can even be leveraged a little bit in my position of chief of staff, because I haven't come from SGA before. I know a little bit about what it's like to not be from SGA, and I think that can be useful in and of itself. But to answer your question directly, no, I don't think that my lack of experience in SGA necessarily disqualifies me from this position.
Awesome. Are there any other questions for the presenter at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to a period of debate. Mr. Griffin, if you would mind going ahead and hopping off the call and then hopping back on to be in that waiting room during debate. And with that, we will begin our period of debate with debate against. Again, please type against or for within the chat if you have debate for or against. We'll start with a period of 45 seconds against. And seeing no debate against, debate is one-sided. This period of debate has concluded, and we'll move on to a period of voting. Again, voting is within the Google Drive. If you go into the elections folder, to the top staff confirmations folder, you'll find the ballot for chief of staff. That's COS ballot. We'll have about another 30 seconds for voting here in an effort to continue to move along the agenda. All right, we'll hand it over to Pro Tem Spur to announce the results after she closes the ballot here in just a second. The ballot has closed. Pro Tem Spur, whenever you have the results.
All right, with 43 votes for, 1 against, and 5 abstain, he has been confirmed. I'm going to let him back into the meeting to be sworn in.
Awesome. And Mr. Griffin, welcome back in the meeting. You have been confirmed. Congratulations. You are the next Chief of Staff for the executive branch of SGA, Chief Justice Chopra. I will allow you to go ahead and get unmuted here.
Alrighty, I have reposted the oath in the chat for you to follow along. Go ahead and raise your right hand. I state your name. Do swear to faithfully execute to the best of my ability
To faithfully execute to the best of my
the duties of the office of State Your Office
the duties of the office of Chief of Staff
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association,
for the Texas A&M University Student Government Association,
to uphold the honor of the same
to uphold the honor of the same,
at all times to protect the welfare of the student body,
to at all times protect the welfare of the student body,
and to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
and to promote good relations between the students and those concerned with the university.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Chief of Staff Griffin. We will now move on to the consideration of our next top staff position. That is Connor Newman for the position of Executive Director of Operations. Again, SVP Mendoza, you are recognized to briefly introduce.
Perfect. Thank you again, Speaker McHugh. So this next position and the final one for this evening is for Operations Executive Vice President. This is a position that is extremely vital to ensure that the Executive Cabinet is following the code. It's extremely vital to ensure that we have good relations with our committees and the executive branch. Our nominee, Connor Newman, is somebody that I've gotten to work with. He is someone that has served on the Internal Affairs Committee with me in the 72nd session and has served as a extremely important ear as we transition to this online platform. So I've gained a lot of respect for him, the way he holds himself, the way he is unbiased in just about every decision that I have seen him make. And so for those reasons, I quickly gained respect for Connor Newman, and I'm excited for you guys to hear from him.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric. And howdy, Senate. It's good to say that again. As Eric said, I was a member of the 72nd session of the Student Senate, which is still going on. It's good to see some familiar faces in the room. And I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate the 3 selected for chair positions, as I know all 3 of you will do wonderful jobs this year. And it's been good to get to know you in the 72nd session, so congratulations. I would like to encourage you all to follow along with my presentation, which is in the Google Drive, because that's what I'll be referring to as well as I speak to you all. So as Eric and Zach said before, I'm Connor Newman, and I'm an agricultural economics major and the loudest and proudest member of the Fightin' Texas Aggie class of 2022, AAAAA, because now pullout day has moved to 422, so I can't quite do that yet. Just a little bit about me. My hometown is Belleville, Texas. It's about an hour south of College Station, sandwiched in between Brenham and Sealy. My major, as I said earlier, is agricultural economics, and I have a minor in agri-food sales. which is the only sales minor at Texas A&M University. So I'm proud to be a part of that program. And a fun fact about me, I almost climbed to the highest point in Texas, which is Guadalupe Peak in the Guadalupe Mountains range out in West Texas. But it was 19 degrees and snowing, as you can see in that picture there. So we did not quite make it to the top, but we made it to the false summit, which was at 7,500 feet, and we were very cold. Also on that slide is a picture with my mom and my little brother, who is almost taller than me, though he's 4 years younger than me, at an Aggie baseball game, which is one of my favorite pastimes here at Texas A&M University. To briefly go over my experience and why I think I'm qualified for this position. First and foremost, I'm an accredited parliamentarian, and part of my duties as Operations Executive Vice President would be working with the Rules and Regulations Committee of the Student Senate. So that definitely helps with any parliamentary procedure, the writing of bills, the writing of the code. It's really helpful in interpreting that, so I can definitely bring that to the table. As far as managing people, I have the honor of serving as Assistant Director of the Freshman Leadership Experience, which is the flow for the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. I'm a member of the Coles Council, which is the college council for the College of Agriculture. And I was the finance chair for the 72nd session of the Student Senate. And I've gotten to work a little bit with y'all's chair, John Carter Teague, for the 73rd session to try to get some good finance reform passed before I completely turn it over to him. Real quick on my vision and values. I have 3 main core values that I like to live my life by every single day. Those are integrity, honesty, and diversity. Why integrity is my number one is because my grandfather has always said that you have to live your life with integrity, or else there's really no point in being here, because you've got to be honest, you've got to have integrity in every single thing that you do, or else you're doing a disservice to yourself as well as everyone else. And on diversity, I think that's diversity of thought, diversity of the people that you're hearing from, and being able to listen, being able to actively listen, and being able to just make sure that you understand different perspectives and are able to take that into account. My own vision for this position is to collaborate with leaders within and outside of SGA to grow the brand of student government and impact a diverse array of people in an extraordinary way. Because you can impact people in a good way or a bad way, but we want to make sure that we're being impactful and doing that in a good way through this position. And to touch on my goals right quick for this year is to work with the Senate Rules and Regulations Committee to make impactful change and clarify the code for all branches, because if y'all have seen the SGA code, it is about 250, 260 pages of a lot of words, and it's really hard to find the stuff that you're looking for. So that's definitely a top priority of mine. I want to set an expectation of open communication between SGA committees and myself to make certain that individuals have access to resources, whether those resources are myself, SBP Mendoza, or if we shoot them over to y'all in the Student Senate, to make sure that they're getting their questions answered, their concerns answered, because at the end of the day, we're all students here at Texas A&M University, and we want the best for our individuals. And lastly, I want to have a weekly meeting with the Executive Vice President, Student Body President, and the Chief of Staff, as well as a separate weekly meeting with the VP of University Committees, the Diversity Commissioner, and the Development Commissioner, just to make sure that we're on the same page as far as implementing our initiatives for the Student Government Association, but also for the Executive Cabinet. And I'd like to just make sure that we have that open line of communication, because that's really key in anything that you do, to make sure that you have that communication there. And with that, I'm open to questions. And Speaker McHugh, you are still muted.
Right, perfect. We will figure out that mute and unmute here by the end of the meeting, I promise. With that, we'll move into a period of question and answer, beginning with Senator Bone. Senator Bone, you'll be unmuted and able to ask your question.
Senator Bone of the Mays Business Caucus. Connor, I'm new to SGA. I'm a new senator. I was wondering, what are the committees of SGA and what do they do?
So we have a wide array of committees through SGA. I'm not going to sit here and take your time and name all of them, but among the notable, all of them are notable, but the ones that you really come to mind are Carpool, that provide wonderful services for our students on Northgate and elsewhere. The Aggie Muster Committee and the Aggie Recruitment Committee, those really come to mind that at first thought. Thank you for your question.
Senator Said, you'll be unmuted to ask your question.
Mr. Newman, Senator Said, Engineering Caucus, what other time commitments do you have, and how do you plan to ensure that you can attend to all the responsibilities of your position?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for your question, first and foremost. I think that the biggest commitment is my classwork, because we're all here to gain an education, a world-class education at Texas A&M. But other than that, I have several organizations that I'm in, but it's essentially the same as my year in Student Senate. I'm in the Coles Council. I'm not on staff for Flows anymore, but I'm still relatively involved. But to answer your question directly, there's no time commitment issues for me. Especially right now when we're trying to Zoom call everywhere to try to make sure that we have interviews, to try to make sure that we have meetings. Making time is not difficult if it's something you care about. And this is a position I feel very strongly about. It's something that I feel like I can do a wonderful job at. And so there's no issue with time commitment there.
Senator Trosclair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the challenges while serving in an executive position is balancing things. Question for you is, what are some things that you're prepared to do to ensure things don't slip through the cracks and ensure different voices have a place in your position?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for your question, Chandler. It's good to see you again. Good
to see you as well.
I think organization is the key. I think making sure that you have a comprehensive list of things that need to be done. Right here, I have my list of things that need to be done this week, sitting right here on my desk as I speak with you all. I think that's how you ensure that things don't slip through the cracks. Is you have to make sure that you're organized and that it is a priority to you to make sure that the executive cabinet comes first before all things, so you can make sure that everything that needs to get done does. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
With a minute and 15 seconds remaining in the Q&A, Chair Jeffress.
Permission to preface?
Granted, briefly.
So a lot of people know that I love to come prepared. So in the preparation for this, I've gone through a multitude of Senate recordings and noticed that you have missed roll call at least 7 times that I could find, with that being the verbal roll call. So why is it that you could make time for your executive position but not your Senate one?
Now, I'm not sure what you're referring to as far as missing roll call 7 times, because as IA, and I know you've been a member of several IA meetings as far as coming to see what we do. We go through absences there, and we go through roll calls, and I think I had 2 absences this year that are listed on the 72nd session Google Drive. So we can look through that if you'd like, but I don't recall missing those meetings. So,
unfortunately, due to time, we don't have time for the follow-up. Chair Ahmed.
Sorry, had a little bit of trouble with Zoom. Chair Ahmed, Off-Campus Caucus. So for some people who are not very well versed on the roles of the different roles in
exec. Can you maybe give them a little rundown of what the like responsibilities of like ops VP are in exec, and maybe like how you plan to like accomplish those responsibilities?
And seeing as time is up, Mr. Newman, if you could answer in 2 sentences, max.
Absolutely.
Seeing a motion, I'm actually going to pause you, Senator Said.
Senator Said, Engineering Caucus, I motion to increase the question and answer period by 2 minutes.
By seeing a second, multiple seconds, the motion to extend the period of question and answer here by 1 minute and 30 seconds, 2 minutes, excuse me. We will go ahead and move by general consent, but before we do that, I do just want to stress we are already at our 10:30 end meeting time. I did get an extension from our advisor to go to 10:45, but we do still have to swear in caucus leaders as well as go through debate and voting on this position. So please keep that in mind as we vote. With that being said, we'll move by general consent to extend the period of Q&A by 2 minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing an objection, we will vote on a ballot that is on the drive and will be sent over via Zoom here in just a second.
While y'all are voting on that motion, I'll real quick answer your question, Chair Ahmed.
Unfortunately, we can't have a speaker during a vote, so I am going to have to pause you for the time being. I'm sorry, Mr. Newman.
Oh, you're all good.
That link should be in the Zoom chat here any second. All right, that link is up. Please go ahead and click it and vote there. We'll have about 5 more seconds here. Right, let's see. So can you also put that in the Slack here real quick? So in the general channel on Slack, we should have that going up here in just a second. Perfect. So if you can't get it through Zoom chat, please go ahead and if you have your Slack channel open, it's in the general as well. So unfortunately, we did not receive the majority to go ahead and extend the period of Q&A. Mr. Newman, if you did want to answer that last question in 2 sentences here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to answer that question right quick. So the Ops EVP works with the chair of the Rules and Regulations Committee for the Student Senate, as I covered briefly in my presentation, as well as working with the Diversity Commissioner, the Development Commissioner, and the VP of University Committees to make sure that SGA works well as a whole, as well as implementing the initiatives of the student body president. Does that answer your question?
Perfect. And with that, that does conclude our Q&A. Mr. Newman, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and dropping out of the call and then rejoining. Awesome. And with that, again, just like the previous confirmations, we'll go through a period of affirmative, against, or for. We'll go ahead and start with a period of against. If you have any debate against, seeing Pro Tem Spur, you are recognized. You have the floor and debate against.
Howdy, Senate. Pro Tem Spur. I come before you today to speak about the importance of the Executive Vice President of Operations role and its nominee. I do not speak against Mr. Newman's character. However, I would like to shed some light on the demands of the role in comparison with how the candidate will be able to handle these demands. As the Constituency Affairs Chair for the 72nd session of Senate, Connor Newman was placed on my committee as he was the caucus leader for the College of Ag and Life Sciences. The EVOP role demands a person able to dedicate large amount of time to preside over the 13 SGA committees. As a member of the Constituency Affairs Committee, Senator Newman attended 1 out of 6 meetings due to personal conflicts and demanding schoolwork. While these absences are excusable, I question whether or not Mr. Newman is capable of meeting the demands of the EVOP role, along with living a balanced lifestyle. The EVOP is the overseer of 13 SGA committees and has a large workload ahead of them. It requires a person who is able to spend the majority of their days in coldest, long nights on working on material, a good, positive attitude, great communication skills, especially an ability to foster and respect diversity and inclusion, and an overall love and appreciation for SGA. I urge you to consider these things when you move to confirm or deny Mr. Newman as EVOP. Thank you.
That does conclude the period of debate against. We'll now move into a period of debate for. Is there any debate for? And seeing debate for, Chair T, you're recognized with 45 seconds.
Sorry about that. Howdy, Senate Chair Teague, Finance. I'd like to speak just a little bit about what I believe the commitment that Mr. Connor Newman has to the Senate and furthermore to SGA and especially to this university. I've known Connor several years now, and I have never doubted once his commitment to whatever he chooses his target to be. I understand that life gets in the way sometimes of our aspirations, and there's certainly no excuse for that. But I have no doubt that he will be an excellent person for this position, and that he will prioritize this as highly as possible. Thank you. I yield my time to the floor.
And with that, the floor has been yielded to, and time is up on debate for. We'll now move back into a period of debate against. Chair Jeffress, you're recognized in debate against.
Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs. So going back on my previous point that I asked him about, I have gone through a number, like probably an hour-ish of video, and meeting on 9:18, the ending roll call, 10:30, both roll calls, 11:13, the beginning roll call, 2:19, both roll calls, and 3:05, the opening roll call. All, you can go and check yourself, but I cannot verbally hear his answer to his name for the roll call. So for this reason, I will be voting against his confirmation.
With that, debate has ended in against, seeing as the time has run out. We'll move back into a period of for. With that, Senator Martin, you have the floor in debate for.
Liberal Arts. Senator Martin, Liberal Arts Caucus. Though I do not know the nominee very well, and though his absences currently are very concerning, I will just say this. I trust SBP Mendoza's judgment in this. I've noticed just with my interactions and the character of now Student Body President Mendoza, I believe that he's going to pick the highest quality of candidates overall. I mean, just the first two nominees have been fantastic, and I think that they will represent the Senate they'll represent this university very well. I understand that there have been objections by Chair Spur and Chair Jeffries, but I think that I trust the character of Mendoza enough to trust this nominee, and that's why I will be supporting him in this. Thank you very much.
And seeing as that is time on debate against, we'll move, or debate for, excuse me, we'll move into our final round of debate, starting with debate against. Is there any debate against? Jocelyn, I believe you have the floor in debate against.
Okay. Howdy, Senate. I kind of just wanted to share what it is that deters me from this candidate. When last session kind of got around to it, there was a topic that was brought to the Senator Matter for Liberal Arts Caucus.
Awesome. And Chair Teague, does that answer your point of order? Seeing that it does, and again, we're being gracious this meeting, Senator Marufo, you can continue.
But when there was a contentious topic brought to the Senate floor, it felt that this candidate was very dismissive of some of the aspects as to why this topic was being brought up. One of his platform ideas in his PowerPoint is meeting with the diversity commissioner, and one of his values is diversity. While he did say diversity of thought, just the mannerisms during that meeting that he sat in on and the committee meetings that he sat in on, it really feels to me that if a organization, or if a member of an organization or a president came up to him to talk to him about these things, about becoming more involved in executive branches, or becoming more involved in how the chair of operations manages, I feel like he would be very dismissive and deter that person, as I viewed it as when I was speaking, and he seemed very dismissive when I was in committee meetings and in Senate meetings.
Unfortunately, I do have to cut you off as that ends our period of debate against. We'll move into our final period of debate for. Chair Hine, you have the floor in debate for.
All right, Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations Chair. So I've actually known Connor for the past 4 years, which I think that's actually the longest that anyone in this room. And I've served with him in multiple capacities, whether it be on a local level or even on a regional level. And I've seen his passion and I've seen his dedication. And as he said in his presentation, he'll be working really closely with me in the semester. And if y'all's concern is his commitment or his lack of, I guess, diversity, or just a concern in general, y'all can definitely bring that to me, and I will be more than happy to bring that up to him. But I am going to support Connor, or the candidate, with my whole heart, as I've seen the passion and commitment that he puts into his leadership positions. So yeah, I will be voting for him, the candidate.
Awesome, and that does conclude our period of debate 4 and our overall period of debate. With that, we will now move into a period of voting. So the ballot is open and live. You can find that in the same place as the last ones. Again, that's within elections, top staff confirmations, and the ballot you'll be voting on this time is titled EVOP ballot. We'll allow about 15 seconds more for voting. If you haven't gotten your vote in, please go ahead and get that vote in now. With that, I'll turn it over to Chair Spur to announce the results. Pro Tem Spur, excuse me.
Give me just a second, y'all. I'm trying to get the last minute count on this. All right, y'all. Give me one more second. All right. Oops, sorry. With 32 against, 8 abstaining, and 13 for, Connor Newman has not been confirmed for this position as we needed a 2/3 majority vote. Chair Hein, I'm going to ask you really quickly, do we let him back in the room? No. Okay. So I'm going to turn it back to Speaker McHugh, and we will move on the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
And with that, we will now move into the conclusion of our meeting. As far as caucus leaders go, we are going to go ahead and save the swearing in of caucus leaders for our next meeting. The caucus leaders who were selected today will still be the caucus leaders who are sworn in at our next meeting, but we're going to go ahead and save that for the sake of time and going ahead and wrapping up here. With that, I would like to recognize Chair Hein with a motion.
Chair Hein, Rules and Regulations. I move to suspend the rules and move our Senate Chair committee reports to email.
Seeing multiple seconds, we'll move by general consent to move committee reports, so not exec reports, but just committee reports to email. Seeing another motion from Chair Teague. Chair Hein, what are the rules on amending a motion?
So I do believe that the motion to suspend cannot be amended, but if it is an additional rule that he wants to suspend, he can follow up with another rule to suspend after this suspend the rule is passed.
So after this, Chair Teague, I'll recognize you with the motion. With that being said, are there any objections to moving forward with general consent to allow committee reports to be sent over email? And seeing no objections, that does pass by general consent. And I will, Chair Teague has withdrawn his motion. So now I'll move into a period of executive reports, beginning with SBP Mendoza.
Perfect. Thank you, Speaker McHugh. Howdy, Senate. So I appreciate you guys hearing all three of our nominees, including Connor Newman. I will talk with Connor. As you know, or maybe you don't know, we have the opportunity to bring up a candidate twice. And so we'll figure out what we're going to do with this. But I do believe that he is an incredible candidate. And whether this is the role for him or not, per your approval, will be again brought up at a further date. I do think that the facts are important. And so this is an incredible body. I have dedicated 3 years to it. But we don't do roll call by listening on a thing. We do it by a sheet, and I have the 70 seconds absence sheet pulled up, and he doesn't have any absences listed there. And so that is not to pick at anyone at all. I respect you, Senator Jeffries. We're friends, I know you. But I just want to make sure that moving forward, we're holding ourselves to the same standards that we're holding each other to. But regardless of how that is, I think that the two that we've confirmed are incredible. And whether Connor Newman is that person for Ops VP or not, I look forward to bringing more candidates up. However, I do want to make one note, which was brought up to me by SVP Gillette, which has to do with the fact that there's rumors on campus that we won't be back in the fall. And although none of us know what it'll look like, I do want to make sure that we're putting a note that is as of now and correct. It's always changing, but let's do our best to ensure that we're spreading correct information, and we just don't know what the fall will look like yet. But happy to answer questions about that or anything else. Thank you guys so much for your time tonight. Long meeting. We have a long year ahead, but I appreciate your time and commitment to Senate.
Thank you, SVP Mendoza. Again, we'll now open up for a period of question and answer. If you have any questions for the presenter, please use the raise hand tool found in the Zoom tools. Chair Jeffress, you'll be recognized.
So Eric, responding to that comment, so I specifically mentioned the audio portion of it rather than the absent sheet because I did find discrepancies between the two on multiple accounts. I don't know when those were changed.
And Chair Jeffress, is there a question?
Do you think this could have been changed between the audio? So is it a straight transcript of the audio recording or not?
So I don't do that. That's not the speaker's role. That's the pro temp's role. That's a question for pro temp Hole. I just looked at the sheet. That's how we do everything. So in IA, which you've been in, we do absence requests based on what the sheet says. So I couldn't tell you, honestly, Sam, but that's a pro temp question.
Senator Said.
Senator Said, Engineering Caucus. SVP Mendoza, do you believe that the direct transcript from the video is more important to the roll call or what was recorded?
Again, I couldn't tell you. That's not my role. We do roll call and we write it down for a reason. We have technical difficulties all the time. Our speakers were broken practically this entire session because, and you can ask our advisors, we didn't have speakers or live stream for part of it because of technical difficulties. We just got speakers before spring break that work. So I couldn't tell you. I don't want to speculate. All I know is how officially we do it. That's what I went off of.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the presenter? Seeing none, thank you, SVP Mendoza. We'll now move into a period of executive reports from Chief Justice Chopra.
Howdy, Senate. There's not much update from the court. Everything's going pretty steady. In that regards, I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone's staying safe. And keep it up. I think we had an incredible meeting. Thank you all for running it and being patient. And I will see y'all at the next one.
Are there any questions for the presenter? Seeing none, Chief Justice Chopra, thank you so much. We'll now move into the final period of executive reports to be chaired by the pro temp as I take the floor here. So with that, I'll go ahead and start. Guys, thank you so much for bearing with us throughout this meeting. I know there was a couple of rough patches at the beginning and throughout the whole meeting with different procedural things as well as different technical things. And so I want to first apologize for those problems, apologize for any time that was lost in this body because of that. I know that this whole system is a new system and we're working our best to get it done. But at the end of the day, we do need to get a system that works. And so we're continuing to push forward with that in IA to make the system as best as possible. So I do want to thank you all for bearing with us as we do that. As we move forward, I don't have a ton of updates that I'll give this meeting because I will be sending out some things in the Slack as well as over email. So please be watching that. With that, one of my updates is that there is a Slack, a Senate Slack. We're really excited about this. This is the first year that Senate has had a Slack for communication. It's a neat tool because we have channels in there for just general announcements. We have channels in there for questions. We have a channel in there for parliamentary procedure. So when we're back in Coldus and we don't have Zoom chat in front of us, if you have any questions about parliamentary procedure, you can put them in there, and the Rules and Regulations Chair, as well as the rest of the Senate body, will be watching that Slack so that you can get things answered real time, and we can move more effectively forward in our meetings in 144 in Coldus. So we're really excited about that. Please begin to utilize that. We'll put as much information out there as possible. I'm also going to be trying to send a reminder or an update in Slack every single time I send an email out. So be watching for that. Just to make sure we get communication, nothing gets left out. That way, we can make sure we include everyone by including them and as many forms of communication as possible. We also do have a Facebook group that we started. If you're not a member of that yet, please find and friend Pro Temp Spur, Hannah Spur on Facebook. And then she will get you added to that Facebook group. Again, just to make sure we cover all of our bases with information and with communication to make sure everything is getting out to everyone. We do have a lot to do these next couple of meetings. Next meeting will probably also be a long meeting that we exhaust all of our time. But I will say with that, the stress will be alleviated a little bit, dependent on the 72nd session and this next meeting they have. The 72nd session is passing a piece of legislation to allow us to do summer meetings via Zoom, as well as in person. But obviously, since summer classes are via Zoom, we'll be doing this summer via Zoom as well. So we'll be able to have meetings this summer and connect people from across the nation, during summer, in order to continue to finish all of our exec confirmations as well as our J-Court confirmations and anything else. I know last session, because of how long different confirmations and things took, we ended up having some J-Court confirmations bleed over into the fall. And so being able to utilize that summer is going to be huge. So just kind of be ready for that. I will send out a schedule for that as soon as possible. Again, it is dependent on whether that legislation passes through the 72nd. And so just be watching and ready for some summer sessions as well. With that, again, I do just want to thank you all for your patience. I know we extended time and we're already a little bit over that extended time as well. So I want to thank you all for sticking with it. This is an awesome job that comes with an awesome responsibility of representing the student body of Texas A&M. And so the fact that you're all able to take the time and bear with us as we work in this new system in order to represent you constituents is something that I think very much reflects on all the characters of the people in this room. And so I just really want to thank you guys for bearing with us. With that, that is everything. And I'm open for questions.
Are there any questions for the presenter at this time? Other than about attendance, because that's going to come in a moment. I'm going to recognize Senator Tillis. Here's a second.
Senator Tillis, Engineering Caucus. For these summer meetings, would we still have them on the same Wednesday night at 7 o'clock? Because I know a lot of us have summer internships and classes and other commitments that we have to attend to. So is there some type of consensus on the timing for these meetings and the frequency?
So the frequency, as the bill stands currently in committee, we're going to be requiring 2 meetings during the summer minimum with the option to add more. The bill does not specify times for those summer meetings. However, those times will probably be adjusted slightly depending on schedules of summer and all of that. So be ready for a little bit of a shift. Obviously, the goal would be to get it as close to 7 on a Wednesday as possible. But we do want to make it possible for every senator to be there. And so at this point, everything is just speculation as to what the actual timing and schedule of those meetings will look like until that legislation is passed and the conversation has been had in IA.
Thank you.
Thank you, though. Yeah. Seeing no other questions, I'll go ahead and take back the helm here and finish out with a closing roll call. Closing roll call is going to be done the same way as opening roll call. There's a form in the Zoom chat as well as on the Google Drive if the Zoom does not work. It's found in the same place as the last one under e-meeting resources. So go ahead and fill that out for closing roll call, and we'll take a couple seconds here to do that, and then we'll close up the meeting.
Y'all will have until 11:02 to complete that form, and then I will be closing it.
And so with that, since the form will be open until 11:02, I am going to go ahead and say thanks and gig 'em. You are dismissed. Fill out that form, and we'll see you next time.